Oh yeah, the Jose face up there. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Straub Sports Show. I am so glad to once again be joined by Little Bro. Little Bro, first of all, welcome back to the show. But I also want to give you congratulations on your first show in your own place. Congratulations to you. Hopefully the connection's a little bit better. We're going to test that out here in a second. Strabo, welcome back, baby.
Thank you. Listen, it's good. It's good to be in my own place. It's good to have, power after last week. Hopefully everyone has got power now. And I want to apologize for being late. This company right here sometimes gets in the way of what I love to do, which is talk to you. But hey, we're here and we're ready to roll.
Absolutely. I can definitely tell you just moved in because you are definitely echoing like you are in an apartment with no furniture, my guy. But that's all right. That's all right. In time. First of all, I want to thank all of you for joining us today. We are already got viewers on the Facebook page and the 216 Sports Network page. The 216 Sports Network page, that's where you can find us. Which 216 Sports Network page? Well, either one. The Facebook page. You can follow and like us there. That is where Mom is today. Throw her comment up. What's going on, Mom? And you can also like and subscribe on YouTube. That's where Pops is today. You can become one of our 5,000 plus subscribers. Thank you to all you guys who do subscribe to the 216 Sports Network. What can you find on the 216 Sports Network? Well, you can find a little bit of everything. 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth, the Jay Rich Show, the Ruler's Minute with Rico McGee. Literally, he just dropped 2 episodes today. Rico's a Falcons guy, so he touched on the recent Falcons news. And then there was another episode early in the week, Outside Interference with Bob, and the Straub Bros Sports Show. That's what you're tuning into now. Where can you find the Straub Bros Sports Show? You can find us anywhere and everywhere. You can find us on Twitter at Straub Bros Sports. You can find us on TikTok at the SBSS. You can find us on, obviously, the 216 Sports Network. And you can find us on Spotify at Straub Bros Sports Show. And you can find us on Instagram at Straub Bros Sports Show. That and the 216 Sports Network Facebook page and our Facebook page. I'll get it up on the YouTube page. You can go back and find, especially on the Instagram page, our interview that we got to do this past Sunday with Browns legend Hanford Dixon. It was a great time. We were at Knuckleheads for the official Browns backer Kids for Christmas fundraiser. It was a great time. We raised over $1,000 for the kids of Cleveland who really need it and deserve to have a good Christmas when they normally would not. I have to give a big shout out to Jenny and Frank who own Knuckleheads because they put on a great time. A big shout out to my mama because she was selling tickets and setting things up and doing all kinds of work behind the scenes. Love you, mama. You did a great job too. And I got to give a shout out to Hanford Dixon, who was just absolutely amazing. Was a down to earth, great guy. Sat and talked with us for as long as we wanted to talk to him. Post and pre-interview. Then the interview itself was amazing. He then turned around and talked to everyone that was there, signed anything and everything people would bring up to him. It was just a great time. I got a nice helmet. Nice Matt Brown's helmet signed with the top dog. I cannot believe I don't have it right now. I'm actually gonna go grab it and here in a second. And then you got our grandfather's Browns hat signed too, which was pretty awesome. So it was an absolute great time. It was for a great cause. So absolutely, please go check that out. I also, as always, you know what the right sleeve is. A big shout out to my guy Austin at Create Your Own Wave Apparel. He's always rocking with us, always on social media. Please follow him on Instagram, Create Your Own Wave 2021. That's where you'll find basically us just sharing stuff back and forth because Austin does great work. Austin's a big supporter of the show. We're a big supporter of him. And as we go, he's coming with us. There's some good stuff in the works coming soon from him too. Not just some stuff for us to flash on camera, but we've begin discussions about getting some merchandise that you guys could possibly purchase with this beautiful, beautiful logo on it, if you would ever be so kindly. But we'll get to that in time. I do have some sad news today. Unfortunately, and I don't know a lot of details, and I mean, I'll just be honest, it's none of my business. But unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to one of our friends of the show. Old Time Candy released a statement on Facebook that they will be ceasing distribution and sales as of right now for the foreseeable future. I just want to personally thank Barb, who's one of the owners, for giving us an opportunity to even just be a part of it, share stuff, have a promo code, like, do things legit. She definitely, Austin is a friend who we do stuff with, but she was the first person who kind of reached out to us. So it was kind of great to kind of be able to, you know, treat it like a big boy, treat our little show like a big boy show with a sponsor. So thank you, Barb. We really appreciate you. Good luck in the future. And man, I'm telling you right now, if you ever decide that you are going to start this back up or that you're going to start something else up, you already know who to call. We'll put you right back in.
I want
But
that candy.
100%. I know. I really wish. Who you think, man? But and then lastly, show news for me and Strabo. Remember, this weekend is a very, very, very big thing for us. Back-to-back weekends. We went from an interview with Hanford Dixon to Cage Thunder MMA, August 17th, Thunder in the Flats. I'm sorry, Cage Thunder Fight in the Flats. There is, I talked to Alex today. Unfortunately, the show is headlined by Bedford's own Jarrell Hodge. Unfortunately, his opponent this morning backed out of the fight. There was some kind of issue. So they are trying to work on right now getting a replacement opponent for him. Regardless, we are going to be there. We're going to be there. We're going to have some seats. We're going to have some opportunities to potentially interview some guys at the weigh-ins if me and Straub can clear up some schedules to figure that out. He doesn't even know what I'm talking about because I haven't even been able to talk to him yet. That's okay. We'll talk about that after. Either way, we're going to be there. We're not going to be able to live stream because this is a pay-per-view, but we're going to be able to be there. We're going to have some fun. Maybe we'll pull off to the side, kind of go live, give everybody kind of a breakdown of what we're watching and what we're seeing. And just either way, we're going to enjoy being able to go to a sporting event. Sorry. So that's the business end of it. Let's get to work, bro. First things first, we got some news, right? That unfortunately involves your Cleveland Browns. Touch on it briefly, and we will move on.
Yes. So, if people who aren't in the news or haven't been paying attention to training camp, by the way, training camp has started. Everything has started. Yes. After the preseason game, the Browns preseason game, there was a arrest made.
My call.
Yeah. No. I'm trying to get through this without being very depressed at this point.
I understand.
Browns defensive tackle Mike Hall was arrested on domestic abuse allegations. I won't get into the specifics. If you want to look into the specifics, go look it up. Go read for yourself. He was able to practice with the team because obviously the investigation is still ongoing. The only thing that I guess I have to say is I really hope that a lot of these things that happened aren't true because a lot of these things are not great. But also, I also want to touch on something real quick, which is this is never okay. This is never something that people have to deal with or have to live with. So if you know somebody or yourself or one, please reach out. Please, get help and get something get the help that you deserve and that you need. I also want to say on a side note, I love Andrew Berry as a general manager. I think there are two things that he does that I disagree with. One, he tends to let things play out a lot longer than I think he should have in terms of this and in terms of the Deshaun Watson thing, where he kind of ignores the issue and waits for everything to go out before making a statement, which I think is just the wrong thing to do. I think you should make a statement. I think you should, put your thing out there, especially as general manager of a football team when one of your players is like that. But also, he kind of lets Kevin Stefanski out to dry sometimes, where Kevin Stefanski is a head coach of a football team. He is there to coach football. He is not there to manage people's lives or manage, their contract and stuff like that. And it feels like anytime there's a there's something that goes wrong with a player or something like that, you don't see Andrew Berry out there. It's Kevin Stefanski trying to field these questions on things that, in my opinion, I don't think he should have to deal with. And so those are a couple things I think bothers me, and I think I wanted to bring that up in this scenario because right after the day after practice, Kevin Stefanski was the one out there fielding questions on, what's the situation with Mike Hall and everything like that. When, in my opinion, he may have an opinion on the thing, but that's not his role in the organization. And I think that's kind of why when you got those answers from him, it was all negative. It was non-answers because that's not his job to give a statement on that. I think that's why I think a little irks me on Andrew Berry, but we'll see what happens as this kind of goes forward.
Wow. I was handling social media there, so if you're watching, that's why my eyes were down. I had to take a couple seconds to stop there. First of all, that is one of the most important, probably the most important couple of minutes I think we have ever had on this show, especially the first part that you were talking about. Regardless of what we were like, wow, we're bummed it's a football player who's not on my football team, like 100% and I want to echo what you said. If you ever find yourself in one of those situations or somebody who's in that situation, please reach out, get help from anybody, anywhere. So I'm glad you touched on that at the beginning of that. I'm proud of you for that. That's why you are my little brother. I love you. I also really, really agree with your now let's shift back to the sports side of it, what you just talked about. Not every organization, and I know everybody likes to get on the Cowboys because Jerry Jones just comes out and talks about everything too much. But that also means when there's issues surrounding the Cowboys, my coach doesn't talk about it and doesn't have to talk about it. Jerry is taking care of it, which I hate when it's CeeDee Lamb's contract, but I also liked it when Zeke was going through his issues and Jerry was taking all the questions. When we unfortunately signed Greg Hardy, which I was 100% against and was not happy with it, never liked him making a play, was glad when he went to MMA and got knocked out. He fielded all the questions. That's your job. Because ultimately, Stefanski can say he doesn't want him, but the GM is the one who ultimately is signing in and out on that contract. So you get your butt out there and you answer the questions and you take this distraction away from your football team. Allow it to be to them. And here's the other thing. Unfortunately, Kevin Stefanski stepped in so much last year handling the Deshaun Watson stuff. Not that he said anything that was wrong. He couldn't handle the back and forth. And was he there? When's he going to be there? Is he playing? Is he not? And it was too much. Somebody should have been stepping over top of him to take those things away from him so he doesn't sound like a goof and he doesn't sound like he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I 100% back you there. I mean, this is your team, and so I wanted to just give you the floor there. But yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously this is a continuing story, and so there'll definitely be updates. But yeah, I think that the biggest key is to get something out there that shows your stance on something, even if it's a non-stance. Is saying, hey, we're still collecting everything. We're still, doing our own investigation, working with everything like that. It's just, when you have your head coach that can field questions about practice, about injuries, about performances, having him have to deal with something like that when ultimately it's not his decision what's going to happen is just something that just looks bad on paper. And I agree. And he did a great job of handling and kind of subverting. But
I was going to ask this because I'm going to be honest. I did not hear Kevin Stefanski talk about this. All I know is how he handled last year. And last year it was an F. So if I'm kind of asking Nick and you, is this true? He handled this much better?
So people are going to get upset that he didn't, side one way or the other with him. But I think the fact that he kind of came out and was like, listen, he is practicing with us. This is what we're doing right now. This is the plan we're going with moving forward until we get more information. He did the best with what he handled with, because I'm sure there was a meeting with him and Andrew Berry about like kind of what the plan is and stuff like that. But this was like a immediate turnaround from the allegations to practice the next day that you kind of just have to give all the information you could give without, siding one way or the other. And I think that Stefanski did a great job at that. I also don't give him too much slack of last year because in my honesty, I don't think he knew a lot of what was going on with Deshaun Watson. I'm not saying it's whether it was or not. But like I said, that's when you go with Andrew Barry and you get him out there and you go, okay, you answer the question because you know more. And so I think, yeah.
I don't know. Is he playing? I don't know. No, I get that 100%. Yeah, he's supposed to politely dodge answers. Next question. Bill
I'm just here
Belichick.
so I don't get fined.
Right. Excuse me. All right. Well, yeah. Oh, and you know what? The biggest criticism I would say I would lean towards Mike Hall because there's no way you should have shown up to the facility and you should have showed up to practice. And here we go, Straub's first lag out. But there's no way he should have put the team under that predicament. Like, because by the time the team, excuse me, is finding out, by the time everybody's finding out that early in the morning, they're already getting ready. Don't even show up. You made everyone then have to answer questions about you when they shouldn't have had to. So, all right, we're gonna move on. Do you have any other news related items before we jump in the Olympics?
No, I think I'm ready for the Olympics, honestly, because listen, there was a lot of talking from other countries, and I want to throw up that medal count.
Yeah. Come on, give that to me.
Right here, baby.
Oh, boom! Look at that. Here's what I love. Oh, hold on a second. I do want to point this out. Was this today at practice?
Yeah, and I don't.
Wow.
I get it. But it's also like
time out. Pull that graphic down for a second. I know I wanted to move on, but then this came up, so I apologize. He's practicing?
Yes, he is currently practicing. Practice with the team. And like I get this here. I like as a gut reaction to seeing that news, reading the story, and then seeing him get hurt. I get that reaction. And this would be of any player on any team. I don't like that because we've seen so many times domestic abuse and allegations, and then it's, oh, hey, it's blown over. It was a small disturbance that got blown out of proportion.
And we've seen the extreme side too.
Right. So I hate jumping to conclusions like that, but I do get the mentality of like
and Pops mentioned that too, practicing because of the labor agreement. Okay. All right. So he's allowed. So that's pretty much the NFL saying he had. Okay. All right. I was like, whoa, it would have been much easier to just send him away. But okay. All right. Hey, innocent until proven guilty. I mean, I guess. Unfortunately, though, that's then what happens. You put yourself into a situation where a guy tweaks something, gets hurt, and then fans are cheering their own player being injured. It's just an ugly situation.
It's messy.
Yeah, we will touch more on that. All right, now back to the rest of the world talking so much smack that they had to start putting themselves together an entire thing that said Europe to try to catch up with our medals, and that is finishing up on the Olympics where we dominated 126 medals total. Not even close. China with 91, and I do want to give a shout out because they were literally the last one to and then put that up for sure. I want to give a shout out to the U.S. women's basketball team because it was 39-40. China was up on gold medals, and then the U.S. women took care of business there and wrapped it up and got the last gold medal to tie us there. I mean, so much to touch on. I'm not gonna lie. I am glad it's over. Whew, they packed a lot in the 2 weeks. I'm not gonna lie. And then by the end of that second week, I'm definitely fading. I'm not gonna lie. But shout out to everybody. I mean, I'm gonna touch on that a little bit more when we get to our Straub Bros of the week. Unless we want to just do it now.
I mean, I also want a question. I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
What is more important to you, total medals or gold medals?
Both. Because here's the thing. I'm sorry. Like the reason everyone makes fun of us for not being good at soccer is the same reason I would accept nothing less than dominance at the Olympics. We're the biggest country in the world. We send the most athletes there by like triple, like usually sometimes the next country below us. It's crazy. So yes, we must dominate total, but I don't ever want to see us any less than second for gold. And I know I see here Nick says total. I'm sorry, I'm being greedy. Both of them.
I get that. No, I completely that's and like so I actually looked this up. There's no real way to track like the winner of the Olympics just because it's meant to be like a celebration of athletics. So like technically the official Olympics do not have a way of declaring a winner, but it's always between total or gold, because there's been times where like some people have had the total, but then some people have the most gold. And so I wanted to get your opinion on that. I think for me, myself, I think it's total, because that just shows just a collective in terms of not just, like collective kind of thing. But listen, it doesn't hurt to get both. It does not hurt to get both at all.
Not at all. And I'll address that two ways. Number one, like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being the third best in the world. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. No. And the reason I say like golds specifically, and I'm glad there is no way to judge the Olympics, because I'm sorry, if some of these countries that only won one medal, if I only won one medal and I won the gold, I don't care how many medals your country won. I showed up, I won gold. I'm the best in the world in what I do. So
exactly.
I get what you're saying there, but I also want to point out, not only, okay, did we dominate in total medals, we won the most bronze, we won the most silver, and we won the most golds, are tied for the most gold. So that's just dominance. Nick said start playing for oil, not medals. That's called a war. And it will not be but you will not be, it will no longer turn into regular events for that. Then here's this, you boys missed it, but gold was super important during
back in my day.
Yep. Yeah. I believe it. And so, yeah, you were definitely wanting to compete for that so you could bring those home. But yeah, and here, I'm going to use this to also sit on my high horse. Pay these Olympic athletes better.
Yeah.
Period. Don't tell me we don't have money. I don't even want to hear that. All right. So that'll do it for the Olympics. America dominates as always. And let's go back to caring about our regular sports. But shout out to all of them. All right. Straub Bros of the Week.
Yes.
Straub Bros of the Week. You're up first.
All right. So we couldn't do it this week because you'll see we have a massive packed show. But I want to put out there that in at least maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, a fan favorite segment will be back. But for now, it is my Straub Bros of the Week, because, ladies and gentlemen, we have U.S. soccer players scoring abroad back. Finally, it's been so long. I want to shout these guys out. Brendan Aronson, a tying goal and a 3-3 draw. Malik Tillman, a goal and a man of the match and a 5-1 win. Brian Reynolds, a goal and a 4-3 win. And Austin Trusty, a goal and a 4-2 win over Wrexham. I'm sorry. I know that Wrexham is a fan favorite on the show, but it is amazing. And I want to shout these guys out because we're not going to be able to do a full segment on this. We're not going to talk on them next week because there's a bunch of new guys, but shout out to those guys. They had a great week, and props to them.
You're hilarious. You got to get to soccer, and I love it.
Absolutely.
Save that for the end of the show. All right. So kind of funny that we were doing this. My Straub Bro of the Week is, first of all 126 athletes from the United States of America who medaled, the 42 of you who won bronze, the 44 who won silver, and the 40 of you who won gold. Athletes of all colors, shapes, sizes, religion. Salute to all of you. Thank you for showing we are the best sporting nation in the world. Thank you for your dedication. And hopefully, if you can, we will see you in 4 years in LA. Boom.
That's gonna be fun.
Oh my goodness. Gonna be amazing. We're gonna have to try to work out World Cup and then Olympics, but we'll figure that out at another time.
Be broke by the end of that.
Hey, you got a big boy job now. My second Straub Bros of the Week. This one is obviously personal. Is the oh, I'm sorry. Oh, and absolutely, Nick. No, it's gone. Breakdancing, gone.
I think they actually put that out there that they're not having.
Non-Straub Bro of the Week, breakdancing. No, just the breakdancer from Australia.
Oh my God.
In all seriousness, right. I didn't realize Landon was ready for the Olympics. I did not realize my 5-year-old son was already ready for the Olympics. Because I'm pretty sure when he does his jumping kick and then he does his little floss, I'm pretty sure it looks much better than that. But my second Straub Bros of the Week, 3 of them wrapped in one. It's the us, kind of. First of all, top dog Hanford Dixon for sitting down with us, like I said at the opening of the show, at Knucklehead's official Browns Backer Bar Kids for Christmas fundraiser. Like I said, he was amazing. We were able to raise over $1,000 for the kids in the city of Cleveland. So that's what we care about first and foremost. And yes, absolutely, a legend and someone who does not take himself seriously. 100% a down to earth guy. And for sure, a Cleveland Browns legend. Check out our Instagram, Straub Bros Sports Show, for that interview, or it is shared on the 216 Sports Network page or my Facebook page if you decide to follow me there, Ken Straub. There we go. All right. It is time to talk about the best team in the city of Cleveland. It is time to guard the land. Let's talk about our Guardians real quick. Well, not real quick, but which I need to get back up to. Sorry, I scrolled down for Straw Bros of the Week. We had that big when we left, excuse me, Thursday. We had that big series against the Twins coming up. Mm-hmm. We rode our bad luck from the Arizona series in there, but we took a split. And then we went out and just absolutely mollywopped the Cubs behind some great hitting. The hitting needs to be absolutely given some credit for. And some absolutely great pitching performances. First from Matthew Boyd, who deserves some loves. Alex Cobb, who absolutely has settled in nicely. One of our trade deadline moves is paying off. And then we absolutely must talk about Emmanuel No Runs Allowed Clase, because that man is just a monster. So that's where that. And then I also want to acknowledge that I think it's winter because big Christmas is here, baby. Woo! Yansky Noel over the last 7 days, 6 hits, 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, a 400 average, 400 on base percentage, a 1,000 slugging percentage, 1.4 thousand OPS. Man is on fire.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit all the points there. No, listen,
that stays up for the rest of the segment.
It was looking, I mean, the next one might, honestly.
That too.
Yeah. It was looking a little rough when we kind of came in. We had a rough series, and then we dropped 2 to Minnesota, and then all of a sudden we're back. And so this team is very, very hot and cold lately, and it's playing with my emotions. I don't appreciate it, but I want to talk. I want to give some love because we've won 5 in a row. We're going to Milwaukee for a big series this weekend. It's going to be very, very important in these next couple of weeks because we have a very tough schedule. But yeah, man, listen,
hold on, not just tough. The strongest and hardest schedule in all of Major League Baseball. We think Andre was talking last night. I think it's 4 or 5 more series left with first place teams or teams in the wild card. So yeah, this is no joke. Okay. And I also love go ahead, but I also want to talk about what he talked about with Hedges last night, but go ahead.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, no, listen, this 5-game stretch and hopefully front is clutch hitting, and closing the door at the end of the game. And like you said, big Christmas, 3 home runs in 2 games. Josh Naylor, clutch hits against the Cubs. And then, yeah, you have Jimenez last night, 3 RBIs, 3 hits last night. But then, yeah, you have the pitching. You get up 1 run against this pitching staff, you're good. You don't need much else. And like, it does concern me a little that we may be gassing these guys potentially when we go into the playoffs, and so that remains to be seen. But we did say something similar when we made that run in 2016, where we had 2 or 3 guys that
we had less than this
that we were using every single night. It was Miller, and then it was Cody Allen that we would just throw up in the 8th and the 9th, and we're like, oh, we use them every single day. What's going on? Da 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 da. But it works. And so I think that it's one of those things where you just have to bank on your guys to do their job and to let you know if they need an off night and they've needed some rest. So
unless it's Clase, who was literally trying to get out in the bullpen last night.
Dude, 4 saves in 4 games is absolutely ridiculous. I don't think I've seen that in forever. Listen, he's getting Cy Young shouts right now, which
Okay, which
I
is
don't.
fine.
I mean, listen, it's a starting pitcher's award, and so
Okay.
we'll see. But listen, the fact he's even getting shouts for it is absolutely fantastic. So this team, it still concerns me. It still gives me a little bit on edge, but the fact that we're this far into the season, we have the best record in the MLB. I can't be too upset. I can't be too upset.
Nope, we're nitpicking at this point. Number one. Number two, I do want to point out uh Class A tried to get out there. When Otani was on his huge run, my favorite thing is every time they would put up a graphic of something that he had done, it was like only Babe Ruth who had ever done it because when they show Emmanuel Clase's pitching stats, all the other guys in the pitching are like black and white photos because that's who he's with right now. It is absolutely it's crazy. It's ridiculous. So yeah. Um yeah.
Yeah, I mean Avila, you kind of put Avila in as like a stop the bleeding kind of guy because he's going to throw strikes, and so that's he's not going to be your guy down the stretch that's going to keep you within a run. It's 4-1 in the fifth because one of our pitchers just kind of let it loose. You throw Avila in there, he's going to throw strikes. He's going to get you a couple outs. So
Yeah. I do want to point out batting
we'll see.
averages. I want to because I was keeping track of my batting average
Is it
stat.
me this time? Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's you this time again. You rather it be Cookie. I'm not against. I'm not against Cookie at some point potentially coming out for an inning or two, but we could see there. I do want to bring this up because hey, I did some work this week.
Oh, in the pen,
Something
there you
big to
go.
notice about this. Okay, this is big for me here. We've been doing some winning, but as you see, a lot of these averages have come back down to earth. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's too concerning. I mean, I got to give the biggest shout out to Will Brennan, who didn't even make the. I had to add an extra slot. There was only 13 spots on this last week. I had to add an extra spot because of Will Brennan. So shout out to him. Obviously, big Christmas from not even having an average last week to now being in the 400 range. But the other guys, Jose, Naylor, even Quan. A lot of these guys have started to come back down to earth, but that's okay. Like I'm not too concerned about it, but it doesn't mean I was going to ignore it and not track it. Now, one of the things I did want to mention real
Absolutely.
quick. One of the things I did want to mention was what Andre Knott talked to Austin Hedges about was because they have these big series with all these first place teams, and they basically said, and yeah, I'm going to basically repeat what you heard on the broadcast. I'm not going to lie, that this team takes every one of these series like a playoff series. Hedges picked it up when he went to Texas last year when he got his ring, and he's brought that, and that's what this club is in every week. Oh, I'm sorry, for every series. So that's big to see.
Yeah, and I want to touch on the batting average real quick. And it's one of those things where we've done the batting averages, what, 3 or 4 different times now?
This is
And
our third time. Yeah.
right, you always see new guys on top of like the weekly batting averages thing, which obviously you want like an MVP candidate on your team. You want a batting title candidate on your team. I get that. But championship teams, and we saw it in 2016, they have guys 1 through 8, maybe 1 through 9, that on a given week can give you a 400 batting average throughout a week. Like with the teams that we have gone to the playoffs with that maybe, fizzled out are teams that you relied on 3 or 4 guys, whether it was Jose, Lindor, Santana, all those guys to continuously be kind of up here.
Miss you, Lowe's.
And then the rest just had to bat like 200 and get you through and maybe have one clutch hit. Championship level teams, what they do is you obviously have your stars. You have your Hosey, you have your Naylor, you have your Quan, but you also have guys like David Fry, Will Brennan, John Kenzie, Brocchio at times, Jimenez. You have guys that at a moment's notice, if you have a Stephen Kwan, a Josh Naylor, a Jose Ramirez struggling, you have guys that throughout a week can be like, I got this. I can get you a couple RBIs. I can get this. because that's exactly how championships are built. They're not built on 3 guys batting 500. They're built on 3 or 4 guys batting 300, 280, hitting a couple of home runs, but the rest batting 250, and in a good week can get you a 400 week.
You might need to take weeks off from time to time because you're on fire today, kid. You're 100% right. You are this full screen. This team is more likely to win built like this than the team that went to the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Because number
if
one,
we get pitching,
right? The I don't know who is going to carry us that night means more guys are likely to step up, and we're seeing it. Guys are stepping up. Now, I do want to give some advanced stats on this. Jose Ramirez hasn't been anywhere lower than 5th. Josh Naylor has been a yo-yo. Bo Naylor's been a yo-yo. Tyler Freeman, Will Brennan, Schneemann, Jimenez, Rocchio, all those guys have been yo-yos. Fry has been somewhat consistently from the top to the middle. That is the lowest Stephen Kwan has been since I've started doing this.
Yeah. So you have different things. Like I said, the thing that we've never had to worry about is something we're going to have to worry about is our pitching going to hold it together when we play these tough teams? And we are going to be massively tested this next month because you got 5 or 6 series where you're like, okay, what do you got? Because you are going to have to give something similar to this the entire postseason.
You said Milwaukee, right?
Milwaukee next, and then Kansas City, and then New York, the Yankees at somewhat next week as well.
How about that question, Straub? Nick says, does Lane go to Columbus? Does he need to? We are talking about recent trade deadline acquisition, Lane Thomas, who last week was batting 100. This week is batting 090. And was benched recently.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to go to Columbus. I think he is exactly what we wanted him to be. He is a arm that gives you, a couple of good at bats, but is really mostly a outfield guy, so that some of these rookies don't have to play different positions. I wasn't expecting him to hit a big number, maybe not this bad, but it's one of those things where he is a guy. He is a guy, and that it's all you were going to get from him, and that's kind of what we were looking for. That's why we didn't give up anything for him.
That's key there. Yeah, I mean, maybe he turns it around. That's the other thing. He's not doing good. What we did is when we brought him in, we said, all right, you're going to play every day.
No,
maybe not. Maybe wasn't the best idea. So we will see as they go. But listen, we are somewhat nitpicking right now.
Absolutely.
It's a 4.5 lead again, I think, in the division, or 4.5 lead again. Best division in baseball. Keep playing like this. Keep winning series, and you will be fine down the stretch. So in Steven vote, I trust.
Absolutely.
All right, you ready to have some fun? All
right,
let's have some fun. Oh, I know, but even more fun. But hold on, I do want to touch because sometimes the comments are a little bit behind. So before that moves in, I want to touch on it. Nolan Wright is great, honestly, to me. I agree. Kid plays hard. Kid plays hard defense too.
I like it, but there's been times where it's an error. He's not fast enough to get to a ball. He's good. He gives a lot of effort. There is just a little bit of just lack of natural athleticism in the field that scares me during postseason time when you need guys to make plays.
Because he's a monster. But hey, at the same time, I understand. But that's also kind of what you get out of a big hitting right fielder sometimes.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah, true. The other day he went for a foul ball that he should not have. But okay. All right. I'm going to take a step away from this, and we're going to step into a preview. We are going to talk a little college football, but we're going to keep it home. We are going to start with the Big Ten. We're going to start with the team. First of all, here, let me get to, the whole spiel here. First of all, we're going to do our preview. We split the teams up. We flipped some coins. But actually, before that, what I wanted to do, because unfortunately you were not able to last week because you had no power, so you hung me out to dry to do the show all by myself. Take a moment to talk about your Cincinnati Bearcats.
Oh, do I have to?
Briefly.
Yeah.
I didn't do
So
them.
since
I don't think I did them enough justice last week.
and I appreciate you giving me the limelight. It's just my team is going through a lot of flux right now, so we will obviously see what happens. So my Cincinnati Bearcats, very rough season last season. A lot of turnover due to Luke Fickell's departure. We will talk on his Wisconsin team soon, but just a lot of moving pieces there. So this season is you have some continuity, you have some similar players. Corey Kiner, former LSU transfer and leading rusher last year, returns. That's going to be a big piece for us. We bring in Brady Drogosh, or not Brady Drogosh, he is a rookie. I am sorry. Brandon Sorsby, the freshman quarterback from Indiana last season, is coming to. They say it's still a competition, but he is going to be your starter. You have an amazing offensive line that is going to be leading the way. You have so it's a lack of depth in receiving, but you have some guys coming back. Xavier Henderson, transfer from Florida, that's coming in, or that could transfer last year that's staying. So he should be a big piece. And then your defense. Your defense is a little lackluster in the cornerbacks area from last season. So we're going to see there your defensive line led by Dante Corleone. Dante, he had a heart murmur earlier, and so he's kind of recovering from that. He is practicing solo. Big up to him. You are a key for us, but get back safely and healthily. Do not rush back. If you don't have to, please stay healthy. We want you to stay healthy because you're NFL talent, and that is way more important. And I promise you, that is way more important to us than you playing a couple games for us. We're going to see. This is in my opinion, I know people usually give coaches 3 years. This is a do or die season, I think, for our head coach. Sorry, Satterfield is his
You're
name.
good.
Satterfield, you had a really lackluster first season, but this is a team. This is a Big 12 now. You're not in the American. You need to show improvement. You need to show that you're not going to kind of teeter-totter and lose these close games and lose leads and stuff like that. You need to show a command. You need to show kind of not where you were at Louisville, what you were at App State when you beat Michigan, when you upset Michigan. Then we're going to see. All I have to say is people give him a lot of stick. He came into a terrible situation last season, and the team that he left, people think to see this as a negative. I think this is a positive. A lot of players that he left at Louisville did fantastic last season. So while people think that it's because he left, I think that he just left a year too early. I think he would have seen a lot of the spoils of that if he stayed a year. So I like to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I think this is a massive year for him. So we're going to see. We have a very easy schedule. We have one of the easiest schedules in college football. So this is a team that should make a bowl game this year, and if it doesn't, I think you have to ask serious questions.
Okay, so that was going to be my first question: was can this team make a bowl game?
They should
expect to make a bowl game, and do you expect them to finish in the top half of the Big 12?
The Big 12 is very, very underrated this year. We're bringing in a lot of talent.
Well, then let me ask this question: if right now you're like, okay, we didn't make a bowl game, I want to make a bowl game. If you make a bowl game, do you care necessarily where you finish in the Big 12 as long as it's not like second to last?
Yeah, I think if we're near the middle, I don't have to be like above and like there. I think there's like 16 teams in the Big 12 now. I don't need to be top 8 if I'm 10, 11th, kind of 12th, that area. But I have 6 wins because listen, we're playing Towson, Pitt, Miami of Ohio, Houston, Texas Tech, UCF, Arizona State, Colorado, West Virginia, Iowa State, Kansas State, TCU. One of those is ranked. One of those is ranked. So 6 wins, I think, is not your goal, but I think your standard this season. So we're gonna see. I think if you get to 5, that's okay, but did you look good in other games? If you don't get to 5 wins, I think that's when where you're like, okay, is this going anywhere? And do we have to make a change before this gets worse?
I do want to point out, because this is one of my big stats that I'm going to use today. It's returning production. How much of your actual on-field production are you returning to your team? Now, excuse me, that was like a hiccup. It's hit or miss with these sometimes, because some of the bigger schools are going to obviously come towards the bottom because of the way they graduate players.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have the hiccups right now. The worst thing I could have. You are 62nd. You're in the 62% of your production came back. 68% on offense, 57% on defense. So you're going to need to sit higher in that ranking a little bit, but new coach, obviously, like that. So I wanted to get your thoughts there. Secondly, I had 2 quick things that I wanted to touch on from last week, just because I have had a second to breathe this week now that Straub's here. Number one, I hope you saw my awesome Notre Dame graphic that I used last week. I didn't get to touch on the defense a lot, which was kind of upsetting on my part, just because of the way I was running all over the place. First of all, Jeremiah Love, Jaden Prince, the 1-2 running back combination we have is just awesome. I won the Heisman Trophy with Jeremiah Love in my NCAA career, but that's a different story. Defensive tackle Howard Cross got the third. Got to give him some love. And then obviously we've got an elite safety, Benjamin Morris, and then Xavier Watts. Stuff that I had that I just skipped over last week.
And I don't know if you mentioned it, but obviously the stud long snapper Andrew Cross, brother of ex-roommate and ex-college buddy Justin Cross. Shout out to you.
Come on the show, please.
Good. Got a new number. Looking, ready to go play.
Come on the show, please.
Yeah, go. Yeah,
let me come to a game like you let my brother come to a game, please. Okay. All right. So that is that. Oh, the other thing I wanted to do is there was a Colorado point that I did not really get to make because I was fumbling through everything. Colorado was at the top of my list. And it was number one, if everything gets put together correctly for Colorado, everything, they're in the college football playoff. Oh, yeah. I'm dead serious. If everything goes correct. Now, the likeliness of it going correctly is not great. So we deal with that from there. But one of the things that I think, and I think it's fair to ask, Deion has been pretty open about not only wanting to coach football, but wanting to coach his sons, specifically Shedeur. So my question is there a possibility that when Shedeur comes up in the rankings and he comes into the draft next year, that if one of those teams needs a coach, Colorado, now I don't want to say Colorado needs to be worried, because no matter what, Deion put them in a position that was 1,000 times better than they were. But is it fair to ask the question that Deion might be on the way out if one of those teams needs a coach and a quarterback? That's so common that a team needs a quarterback and a coach.
So let's say Deion was like 5 or 10 years more experienced as a head coach, and then like Shedeur came through and that he went to his school, obviously, and then this happens. I think I could see it, because then you have that experience, you have that kind of, you've been there. Then yeah, I think is a little too early. I think that's my one gripe. I think is that I don't think we've seen a coach. I know, Prime is different, but I think it's a little too early. We haven't seen a coach make that rise through the ranks unless it's been unprecedented success, which unfortunately I don't think Colorado's had yet.
No.
My second thing.
Oh, go ahead.
My second thing is and I think the real reason why I don't think Deion will ever go to the NFL is Deion's one biggest plus as a coach is his ability to recruit and to kind of get that and motivate things. When you got 30-year-olds
Yeah,
that are on there, you
Dion's
don't
built for
need the
college.
motivation. You don't need a recruit. That is where he is going to succeed at. And I don't like one. I don't think the teams in the NFL are going to think he's ready. But two, I don't think Dion as a coach in general should even kind of unless he like unprecedented success and then he kind of wants to try his hand at the NFL. But unless there's a extenuating circumstances, I don't think that Dion should even consider going to the NFL until the entire stars align to something that it's an amazing situation. He's going to be able to do what he wants and some other incentives. I think he's good where he's at. Maybe going to a different college, but not the NFL.
I'm on the record saying if I had the dream, job, obviously I've coached soccer. I've dabbled in getting back into coach. Hell, I was offered a coaching job almost when we were starting the show.
Right.
I believe college is better. I know with NIL and all this recruiting stuff now, it's become a little bit more difficult and you got to re-recruit your team every year. Yeah, but you could also be at a program for 5 to 6 years. Shelf life in the NFL don't work like that. So grown men don't work like that. College kids, just way more fun. The stadium atmospheres, just all of it just seems or not just seems, but don't get me wrong. They're all
You went to a game,
Oh, 100%. Been to many games. Well, no, not many games, but I've been to a couple games. Well, 2. Let me not talk smack. But they're all 25 hours a day, 8-day a week jobs. Okay.
Yes.
They're all 25/8, NFL or college. So why not do it in college where you can have some more stability and the money's there? These college coaches get paid plenty good. Okay. I wanted you to be I wanted your opinion on that. I agree with you. I wanted you to be able to have the floor on Cincinnati and talk about
Thank
your
you.
Bearcats correctly. Now
We'll see.
let's get into the Big Ten. Now, just like last week, because I've been working hard on these, I think this is some of the proudest work that I've ever done on the show. Obviously, I have your recruiting graphic again. Obviously, just so you know, I ranked those teams 1 through 18 there. On the left-hand side, that is your actual Big Ten ranking. So that's how they rank within the Big Ten. Those 3 columns are separated by their recruit rankings, kids coming out of high school, their transfer portal rankings, guys coming in and guys going out. And then that is the overall rank. Now, listen, I'm just going to be honest with everybody. I've done a lot of research on this. I'm using a fantastic website that is used to keep track of all of these rankings. I could not tell you what their formula is to save my life.
Ask.
Yep. I could not tell you what their formula is to save my life. I could probably tell you what the BCS formula was better than this. I could probably try to do some of your physics or your aerospace physics homework before I could figure out how the hell they come up with these rankings. Case in point, how a team like Oregon has the 3rd overall recruiting ranking, 2nd overall transfer portal, but it's 4th. Like I couldn't tell you. Okay. I don't get it.
Okay.
Now, we are going to talk about the Big Ten and the SEC today. One of the big things I'm going to notice, or you're going to notice, I'm going to slide back and forth. Check out that far right-hand column, your overall ranking, and for both the Big Ten and the SEC. What you're going to notice there in the SEC, 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 16. They go in a row almost. A lot of your top 25 is all right in there. And the ones who aren't are in the top half of the Big Ten. So this is the most dominant 2 conferences we have, obviously. This is where the big dogs are. This is where the college football playoff contenders are. And little bro, since I don't think it was fair for me to take all of the teams that I don't necessarily have the fondest memories of, and a team that honestly you rooted for the first 18 years of your life, let's start with the number 1 team in the Big Ten, the arguably number 1 team in the country, but they're number 2 currently, but they got plenty of number 1 votes. The team very, very close to us, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Or hold on, actually, you know what? I messed up here. So let me throw an audible because there are your tiers. You want to start at the top or the bottom?
Let's start with the top. Let's go with the top.
Okay, so start with the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Ohio State. I'm not.
OH, 0-3 versus Michigan.
There we go. Um, Listen, Ohio State fans. Every year, this is our year, and this is,
Don't be
you
negative.
know, this. I mean, that is you hear it. You are it is. They are Dallas Cowboy fans. They don't want to admit it. It's this college football. It is. This is our year. Yada yada yada. But this year, I think it might actually be true because, in my opinion, anything other than a deep playoff run will be a disappointment for the Buckeyes. You have 9 starters returning on defense. You're adding Caleb Downs from Alabama, which is one of the best freshman defensive players last year. On the offense, you're adding one of the greatest offensive minds in the college game at Chip Kelly.
Oh, yes.
You got an amazing
The real
transfer
transfer
quarterback.
portal. The real transfer portal signing.
The yeah, you have one of the honestly the best quarterbacks to transfer in Will Howard. That combination is going to be absolutely fantastic to see Chip Kelly and Will Howard. Then you go, okay, well, what about them running the ball? They have Quashawn Judkins, which I think is honestly one of the best college football names I think of this season. And Travion Henderson, who is a beast. This is probably the best 1-2 running back tandem in college football that I've seen. And of course, it wouldn't be Ohio State if you didn't have like 4 NFL ready wide receivers in the room. So, all of this being said, you have one of, if not the most talented on paper rosters in all of college football. You just have to not get in your own way. You have to basically somehow use that Ryan Day Ohio State versus the world mentality every week when you are going to be double-digit favorites probably in every single game this season. So good luck to you guys. I really think you guys are going to do well, but you have to do what you haven't done the past couple years and win the games you should win. And even if it's a little bit of adversity, overcome that, because you couldn't do that against Michigan these past couple years. You couldn't do it against Oregon. Get the wins that you need to do and take care of business. And this should be, honestly, this should be an LSU when Burrow was there, or an Alabama type season where you just run a rough shot through everybody because you're that talented.
So for the most part during this preview, we're going to bounce off and we're going to allow each other to take the team to themselves. There was some stuff about Ohio State that I have to point out. First of all, right where you were talking about the schedule, the beginning of the schedule is absolute cakewalk: Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State. The toughest stretch comes right after that. After that, they get Iowa at Oregon, Nebraska at Penn State. Obviously, Michigan at the end of the year. So, like you said, don't get in your own way. Now, I know Ohio State has had some really, really, really good success recently. Okay, when Clemson was really good, right before there were Saban a couple years back, before Saban. Okay, Ohio State has absolutely had some success. The two teams that I remember winning national championships were built on a good defense and great running backs. Ohio State finally, now they have good wide receivers, but I finally am hoping they're going to change out of that. We got to throw it everywhere and get back to running the football, because that's what wins them championships. I want to point this out, and then I'll take Michigan, the team that they are, have struggled with. Chip Kelly, last 4 years at UCLA, top 20 in all of college football in total offense, 2 years of leading the Pac-12 in rushing, and a 4-year streak of having tailbacks drafted. That's what you got, Ohio State. That's the key for you there. Now back to what I was gonna get to. Gotta jump into my overlays. I apologize there. Another team in that top tier, with some national title contention, obviously nowhere near like last year, is the Michigan Wolverines. As you see, they are 4th in the Big Ten in recruiting, 16th in the recruits, 58th in the portal, which shows a lot of guys did leave. after Harbaugh left and with all the stuff going on. But they are 14th overall. You explained that to me. I couldn't explain it to you to save my life. As I'm trying to scroll up to find my Michigan notes here. But here we go. Sorry about that. Sherrod Moore steps into his first year 1-0. We talked about the recruiting class with Harbaugh being gone. Here's where they get a little bit tough. All right, and they get hit. They are 128th in returning production. Only 36%, 36% total, only 24% on offense, 47% on defense, which is where they absolutely have to go heavy. They bring a lot of talent back. Cornerback Will Johnson is elite. They've got 8 other starters who have saw 200 snaps. They picked up some talented guys in the portal, one from Tennessee, one from Michigan State and Maryland. Which is big for me because you're scouting guys there right within home. I know scouting is not a word we like to use around Michigan, but we'll keep it rolling. Defensively, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Rayshawn Benny, Derek Moore. Those are names you're going to be hearing on the Michigan defense because I know you Ohio State fans pay attention. The offense is going to look a lot different. Not a lot of names obviously, there is one you do, running back Donovan Edwards. Super talented. Has had big clutch runs in big games, but he's also a player who did not even run for 500 yards last year. But coming off an injury, we will absolutely see. That's because sophomore quarterback Alex Orji is unproven. So they're going to have some issues there. It's going to be big shoes to fill. But tight end Colston Loveland. That's a top 5 tight end. So we will see where they go from there. Schedule is big for me on this episode because the Big Ten and the SEC schedules are brutal, man. Like within themselves. One non-conference game for them to really talk about. They have number 4 Texas in week 2. That's huge. They have 3 newcomers. USC. Just 2 weeks after that, then later down the line, they play Washington in a national championship rematch, and then they get Oregon the week after Michigan State. So those are big games. But let's talk about it. The Buckeye game. Can they beat Ohio State for the 4th time in a row? I don't know. I'm not super high on this Michigan team, but we will see.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan. I feel like this is going to be very much the years of Michigan when it was back and forth with Urban Meyer and they were always top 10. And then for a couple years, they just went down before Harbaugh came back. I think this is going to be very similar where you have a head coach that people believe in, but I feel like the talent acquisition ability and the ability to, when the time gets tough, to really bite down and kind of
and there he goes. It didn't take long. You did pretty good.
I think we're going to be lacking that in this Michigan team. We're going to see.
All right. Well, if you can, there you go. I think you're back. When you can, talk about the other team at the top of that national contender list, a team that is, as you see by the recruiting list, recruited very well, not just in their recruiting rank, but in the portal as well, and that is the Oregon Ducks.
Yeah. Listen, I love Oregon. I think they're a fantastic program. I think going to the Big Ten is an amazing move for them. You are losing Coach Dan Lanning in the next couple of years if he continues this trajectory. You are losing him to an Ohio State, a Michigan, and Alabama, somebody.
Over Phil Knight and his NIL Nike's money's dead body.
I'm just saying, when USC or somebody like that comes calling, it's very hard to not have that. But anyways, and so this is what I'm going to say. Oregon, 22-5 of the last 2 seasons. Not dominant, but making for an Oregon team, that's very impressive. And to add on to that, you added, honestly, in my opinion, the best instant impact quarterback this season in Dylan Gabriel. He is proven on both levels. He is going to be absolutely fantastic. You combine him with 2 All-American wide receivers that they have. This offense is going to be electric. It's going to be like every other Oregon offense you've seen. Fast-paced, really good through the air. We'll see if the running comes along, but I think it will. I don't think there'll be an issue there. I think the only issue is, or I guess the only question mark is the defense. They had to restock a lot on defense after they left in the draft. You obviously see that they got a lot through the recruiting and the transfer portal, but with defense, more important than offense, you have to mesh. You have to know kind of what callouts are and everything like that. So that's going to be your biggest question mark there, especially going to a Big Ten division where it's not the Pac-12. You are not going to be able to just throw on teams 24/7 and just kind of just blow teams out. When you play in Iowa, when you play a Purdue, when you play a, in Indiana at times, you are going to only be able to put up 21, 28 points on a good day. And can your defense be good enough to stop some of those teams from scoring? And so I think Oregon, you have CFP hopes, but it is stringent rely on adapting to the Big Ten and their style of play.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Another team at the top of that list with some college football playoff contention or hopes, the Penn State Nittany Lions, who I think it's fair to point out would have technically been in the college football playoff last year based on the rankings. James Franklin and the Nittany Lions come in with the 14th, as you see, ranked overall recruiting class, 15 recruits, 57th in the portal. A pretty high returning production ranking as well. They're 23rd, 74% total, 66% on defense. Here's what it's going to come down to. Drew Alar, are you good?
Yep.
Are you recent Penn State like quarterback good, or actually are you actually good? If he's good enough and if he can even be just okay, somewhat elite, they're gonna make the playoffs. Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, good running backs. Tyler Warren, the tight end, is a talent, but they're also, because the wide receiver room in the Buckeyes, Buckeye Nation is so deep. Buckeye wide receiver Julian Fleming has come over too. So that's a big one there. So what can the offense do? What can this offense be? Can you score some points when it matters, Penn State? Because the defense is always good. Even though they lost Manny Diaz, they brought in former Indiana coach Tom Allen. I don't expect a dip. 13 of 20 players with 200 snaps or more are coming back. It's never void of talent. They can't beat Ohio State and they can't beat Michigan. They can't win the big games. But one kid on one night having a big game can change all of that. We see that all over college football. The schedule, top, middle, heavy schedule. They start with a very underrated West Virginia team in Morgantown, which is always tough to play at. They go back-to-back Max, my favorite, Bowling Green Falcons, and Kent State.
I saw that.
Then this is the run here. They go Illinois, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Washington, then Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland. If they can clip the Buckeyes or run through the rest of that schedule with only a loss to Ohio State that isn't embarrassing, Penn State's in the college football playoffs.
But we say this every year, and this is what's going to happen, because this is every James Franklin Penn State team, right? You'll whoop West Virginia, you'll whoop Bowling Green, you'll whoop Kent State, you'll whoop Illinois. You beat UCLA, maybe not whoop them, but you beat them. You beat USC, but it's kind of close, and you're like, ooh, is Penn State actually, that good? Maybe. Then they play Wisconsin, and again, it's close, and you're like, ooh, maybe, and then they get rolled by Ohio State.
No, I understand.
It happens every single year. I'm sorry. Until you can prove to me that you were going to break that, I can't trust you to be anything other than second or third, depending on how good Michigan is that year.
That being said, they would have finished in the college football playoff last year.
Sure.
And this year, more than anything, that is all it's about.
Yeah, no, you're right. And then their first round exit when they lose to Auburn or some SEC team that finished below Bama and Georgia. I can't trust them at all. And I know we have CFP national contenders because on paper, yeah, they are. But you know what? They are, in my opinion, the same old stories category, because they every year have the same old story. Beat on bad teams, win close to teams kind of close to them, and then get whooped on by the higher ups.
I listen. I understand. Now, as you see, I had some fun with my graphic. Those 4 teams were your college football playoff national contenders. Now, this next one I broke into 2 groups. The new guys, USC, UCLA, and Washington, and the same old stories. The Iowa Hawkeyes, the Wisconsin Badgers, and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. You could have inserted Penn State into this category, but they deserve some love because they would have, like I said, for the 3rd time, they would have made the college football playoffs. So we are going to start. Drew, it is your turn first. Which one of those teams would you like to start with? And buy me a minute to go, hit the head.
Yes. So we're going to start with a team that is new guy. We're going to start with a new guy. And this is one that I think is really, really interesting because UCLA, you lose Chip Kelly, you lose kind of this dynamic offense. And we're going to see. We're going to see what happens there. But for those that forgot, UCLA acquired Eric Bieniemy to come in and be their assistant coach. Now, at the time, we were very surprised as, honestly, 2 years ago, we thought he was going to get NFL head coaching offers and then took another assistant coaching gig in the NFL and then even went down to college. This doesn't stop the fact that this man is an absolutely amazing offensive mind. And this is a team that's going to need it. They had 5 yards per snap in net last year, which really, really hurt. But when you look at the schedule, right? Hawaii should be a win. Indiana should be a win. You have 3 back-to-back tough games in LSU, Oregon, and Penn State. But then you got Minnesota, Rutgers, Nebraska, which I think is underrated. We'll talk about them. You have Iowa, who their quarterback just went 7 for 20 in a spring game, which I don't even want to. You're going to touch on that. Then Washington and USC, and then Fresno State. This is a team that I think could surprise a lot of people in this. Maybe not in those back-to-back top 15 matchups, but down the stretch with Iowa, Washington, USC. I think with Eric Bieniemy running that offense, could just start dominating teams that we didn't expect just because of what's going to happen. But a lot of turnover. However, you did keep Deshaun Foster as a head coach, which I think is massive, in retaining players, which they did. But it's a very question-heavy year for UCLA, but I think they have the chance to make a lot of noise.
I like it. I respect it. I brought the thing down I wanted to mention. Obviously, 90 in recruiting ranking, but then 44 in the portal, 44 in the overall rankings, 12th in the Big Ten, bottom half there. Transition year, we'll see. Not a mini transition year. They're a big time school. So I'm gonna stay in Cali, and I'm gonna go just across the street. Oop, wrong one. And that would be obviously one of the other new guys. That would be the USC Trojans. My nemesis. I hate Southern Cal so damn much. But as any real rivalry, I'll be honest, I have no choice but to respect them, especially considering I grew up watching college football during the Pete Carroll days in my younger to high school years. So I don't have a choice the way they used to throw and beat us all around. But Lincoln Riley has the 20th ranked class overall. As you see, they're 5th in the Big Ten, 17th recruits, 19th in the portal. Really no surprise that place recruits itself. They do, however, rank 99th in returning production, only about 50%. Miller Moss was the quarterback who is there. Jaden Maivia comes in from UNLV. Either one of these guys is going to end up getting drafted in the NFL because one of them is going to be good because USC always has a good quarterback. This is depressing. And I actually wrote that. Quentin Joyner is a good running back. Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, Jacoby Lane. They've got dogs at the wide receiver position as well. But it's the defense, okay? It's the defense. It's been flat out laughable for 2 years. That has to change. It did steal with them stealing your who you just talked about, UCLA crosstown rivals defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn, who turned UCLA's defense into not just a good Pac-12 defense, but a nationally good one. He's brought 2 Bruins with him: cornerback John Humphrey, safety Kamari Ramsey. some Oregon State and Florida guys Florida State guys coming in as well. The offense is going to be what the offense is when it gets rolling. Can the defense slow guys down long enough to get that offense rolling? And can that defense compete in the Big Ten when it gets cold and when you have to run the ball, stuff like that? Schedule wise, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Week 1, 13 ranked LSU. They have Michigan 2 weeks after that, Penn State 3 weeks after that. Then up and coming Nebraska. And then at the end of the schedule, UCLA, Notre Dame back-to-back weeks. I absolutely expect somewhat of a step back from USC just because, like we're going to talk about with some of these other teams that are making transitions into new conferences, these schedules are brutal.
Yes.
So, all right. That'll do it for USC for me. Let me get back to the what I was looking for. All right. We've got some more teams up here. Who you got next?
We'll round out the new guys here. We'll do the Washington Huskies. Now, listen. This team is as new as you can get.
Yeah.
They obviously have a new head coach and a new staff. They have 2 starters returning total on both sides of the football.
Oh, my Lord.
But they have the tools to make it so it's not an awful year for the Huskies, because we've seen it before. Huskies, I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago, were really good at it, got moved up, and then the year after everyone left and they were awful, and it was back to Oregon being the top dog. However, I think they did it right this time. You get a hot in fuego head coach, ex-Arizona head coach Jed Fish, who led an Arizona team that it was bad for so long to an unbelievably impressive season. You get Will Rogers, quarterback from Mississippi State. You get Jeremiah Hunter coming in. Obviously, you're going to have to replace Michael Penix Jr. and Romo Dunze, which is not anything to really, you can't replace guys like that. But your first 5 weeks, Weber State, Eastern Michigan, Washington State, Northwestern, Rutgers. Those should be 5 wins. And so getting that confidence and getting that in when you have to next week then play Michigan, Iowa, Indiana, USC, Penn State, UCLA, and Oregon, if you can gain that momentum and you can get that momentum that Arizona got last year, this is a team that potentially maybe not drop to the bottom like some people are thinking. Look at that. 11th in the transfer ranking. You had 28 guys coming in, so you're obviously not hurting in terms of talent. You just have to make sure that the pieces fit together. If they don't, that back half is going to be brutal for them, and you're going to see, okay, yeah, this is a team that lost all except 2 starters. But you get a team that can mesh well and do something like that, you are going to be very, very dangerous down the stretch.
I apologize for the graphic randomness there at the end of your little rant. I hit the wrong button. Yeah, I can understand that. I respect everything you just said. I don't think Washington's going to have as hard of a time transitioning into the Big Ten as some of the people would think. I don't think it's going to be a down years for them. I think they're normally a team that bounces back, relatively. It doesn't stay down for relatively long is what I meant to say. Another team on the middle tier like that, my last team there, the Iowa Hawkeyes. Kirk Ferentz. I don't know if you realize this. He is in his 26th year at Iowa. Yeah. He has a 15th ranked 15th in the portal, 32nd in recruits. A lot of freshmen coming in. But they are, and you see it there, they are 130th in the transfer portal rankings, okay? Or basically anyone who has tried to play offense. They are 23rd. They are 23rd in production return, though, 70%, 74% on offense, 66% on defense. Here's your fun Iowa stat, because I always feel like we're just beating them up, so let's throw this out there. Since 2021, FBS teams are 140 and 1,176 when they score 17 or fewer points. Iowa is 7-13. Okay, that's crazy. Now, how about this? 8 of their 10 wins last year were less than 300 yards on offense. And remember how they're 7-13 in those games? 4 of those games were last year where they won a game scoring 15 or fewer points. They do win the games though. This is a top 3 defense nationally. It's going to stay that way as it always is. But I mean, Cade McNamara, Brendan Sullivan, can either of you just beat a decent college quarterback? That alone will get them in the Big Ten mix. Flat out. I mean, let's just be honest about that. Tight end Addison Ostrange, Luke Lakey, absolutely monster, super talented tight ends. They also have no wide receiver with more than 11 receptions.
The
Iowa
all I'm
State
gonna say is,
go ahead.
Oh, go on.
The Iowa State game is week 2. Ohio State is week 5. Nebraska to end the season. This team could realistically lose one game and be in the Big Ten championship game.
While that's true, take one look at Cade McNamara's highlights this past week, and you will say differently. 7 for 20, a pick 6, a couple sacks, and he honestly looked like a high school senior, like going in and playing freshman, being a freshman in college and throwing during like a spring game. It looked so bad. He was overthrowing dudes. It honestly, half the things looked like he was throwing purposefully out to the sideline when guys were wide open. It was brutal.
Yeah. I understand. That defense is really good though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Iowa unders, baby. Iowa unders.
Oh yeah, baby. Iowa unders and lots of punts. But we shall see. Now, what I do want to point out. Hold on. I'm sorry, I had to switch over. I had to pick this thing back up, switching all over the place today. And as you see, we've hit that, and there's my bottom tier. Is it basketball? Is season? Is it baseball? Is it soccer? Is it something? Michigan State, Maryland, Rutgers, Illinois, Minnesota, Indiana. Straub, here's my question to you. Of your 3 teams that you covered, which was you had who did you have?
So I have 4 in the thing. It's UCLA, Wisconsin, Washington, Wisconsin, Nebraska.
No, I'm sorry. In the very bottom tier. My bad.
Oh, sorry. I have Illinois, I have Indiana, and I have Minnesota.
Oh, I forgot to let you do Wisconsin. I apologize. Go ahead.
This is more out of just pure spite at this point. But a very disappointing debut season for Luke Fickell and the Badgers. I'm not laughing or smiling at all. Not a real great offensive output last season, and a lot of questions still remain on that offense. But the more surprising thing is the defense, which is normally a strength for Luke Fickell, as he boasted very great defensive stats at Cincinnati. It also has concerns. You have very thin defensive line depth, and you are really banking on transfers to help your linebacker core. Your defensive backs are great. They're going to be phenomenal. They are going to carry you through this season, but this is going to be a team that's going to get run on a lot. And so Wisconsin, I am very sorry, but I will be rooting against you again this season. Luke Fickell, for what you did for Cincinnati was amazing, but this is a new era. And also, I don't think it's going to be that hard to root against Wisconsin because I don't think that their offense is going to be that good. And I don't think that their defense is going to be able to last 4 quarters, especially if they're down and the other team is just running all over them.
I agree. You're a hater, and I love it, and I enjoy it for that one.
Hater.
And that's fine. All right. Now back to what I was going to ask you. The bottom tier here. Now, everybody on that above in the first 2 rankings, those 2 tiers, have a pathway to the college football playoff. Obviously, the top 4 have way less margin for error. The middle tier, much more margin for error, but it can be done. The bottom tier is kind of teams that really don't have much of a shot. So my question to you, Straub, we're going to pivot a little bit, kind of shake this thing up to make it a little bit, I think, feel like more enjoyable to hear. Of your 3 teams, which of your three teams do you feel actually would have a chance to kind of upset some teams along the way and make themselves maybe not a player in the Big Ten championship, but someone who, damn, I did not want to play them?
Yeah. So I'm going to rule out Indiana. New head coach, the James Madison head coach. 31 transfers in, but also 39 transfers out. So I'm going to have to rule them out. I think it's too early. I think we're doing a Colorado here where you just need to get pieces and get them kind of acclimated before anything happens. Illinois, they had an impressive 2022. They were 8-5. They had 12.8 points given up, but then they slumped last year, 5-7, 29 points given up. A lot of new pieces. I just think they need to develop a little bit more. So I think not by default, but I think just the best of three, I think is Minnesota. If we're not counting the COVID year, this was their first losing season since 2017. So they've been kind of hovering at 500. You got a new quarterback, Max Brosmer. He looks pretty impressive so far in the spring. You have 4 returning starters on the offensive line. You have a returning running back that rushed for 799 yards in only 6 games. And you have a wide receiver that grabbed 59 receptions last year. So out of those 3, I think Minnesota has the best to really prove that they can bounce back from that losing season and, take a couple teams on that maybe they weren't going to take on last season.
I like that. First of all, I have to give a shout out to Purdue because I forgot to put them on the graphic. Yeah, just right here, boop, just completely missing from the graphic. Sorry, Purdue Boilermakers, who are 8th in the Big Ten in recruiting, and 20s on the board, 27 recruits, 29th in portal and overall. That's a damn mic drop in itself for them.
Yeah.
So there's that. I have to give a small nod to Northwestern. David Braun, who was supposed to just watch over a program after they fired Pat Fitzgerald, went from 1-11 to 8-5 in Big Ten Coach of the Year. Now, 121st in the transfer portal, got it. 80th in recruits, got it. 96th, got it. Last in the Big Ten, got all of that. They are 6th in the country in returning production. 77% of their production returned, 64% on offense, 88 on defense, the best defensive return rate in the country. They are trying to put something together at Northwestern, although the problem is they have 2 quarterbacks on their roster, 3 quarterbacks on their roster, none of which have a QBR over 50 or a completion percentage over 58%. So it is going to be tough there. They ever get a quarterback, man, they might be in somewhere. And lastly, real quick, Rutgers, since I sped through the 3 of mine and the time it took you to talk about one, Greg Schiano is back at Rutgers, and that is what's best at Rutgers. You see, 36. Where are you, Rutgers? Oh yeah, they're at the bottom. Yeah, 36 incoming freshmen. 36 and incoming freshmen is good. Almost a top 50 class. Yes, 108th in the portal. I do understand. I do understand that. But same thing with Northwestern. 8th in the country in returning production, 74%, 79% on defense, 6th in the country, a absolutely legit as hell defense at Rutgers, and a legit running back. Kyle Monagai, 1,200 yards last year. So that's a big thing for them. Not really sure any of these teams are going to put something together, but I like what Northwestern and Rutgers are building compared to maybe potentially somebody like Illinois, Indiana.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, Maryland. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that Maryland and Michigan State were my 2 other teams. Michigan State, I want to give them a little dap. You see that little Michigan State stat there in the middle? 12th in transfer portal ranking. I think that's massive because that is a team that has gone through nothing but turmoil off the field, and as a school has gone through nothing but turmoil. So to see guys wanting to get back to Michigan State, the NCAA is better when Michigan State is good. College football is made better when Michigan State is good. And I think Notre Dame's getting them back on the roster next year, or on the schedule next year, which makes me beyond excited too, because that needs to happen as well. All right. Final thoughts on the Big Ten. We're not going to give too many predictions. Next week when we roll into our real college football hot takes and predictions, I'll ask who do you think is going to finish where in the Big Ten. But wrap up some thoughts on the Big Ten.
Yeah, listen, we usually see the Big Ten as like kind of one or two, maybe even three teams as like your top, and then the rest. I think you're going to see a very good tiered like slope as you go down. It's not going to be kind of your top and then everyone else. I think you're going to see a good kind of mix in this now that you've added a lot of good teams from the Pac-12. So we'll see.
100 deep. Unlike the Olympic swimming pool, but like the Olympic diving pool, that boy is deep. That was horrible. My last Olympic joke. I'm sorry. Now let's get to the big dog. Let's talk about.
We're talking the Big 12.
Hey, you're hilarious. It is time to and shout out to David from Cedar Hill, Texas, checking in with us. It's time to talk about the what most people consider the best conference in the country. I kind of do too, especially when I started diving in these recruiting rankings. And that is the big bad SEC. Now, as you see, I have done. Everybody's in a nice little tier. These are not my tiers. I named the tiers, but I did not create the tiers. I will give all credit to Bill Conley, ESPN.com. I stole his tiers. Not even going to lie there. And I had the hardest issue with the SEC graphic because, damn, all y'all in these long names. But we I mean, this is no surprise to anybody, right? We've got the best of the best. We've got Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas, Missouri. We've got the can we? We usually don't. Texas A&M, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kentucky, and then my favorite one to name: Saban's gone. All right, we're back in. Your Auburn Tigers, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, South Carolina, the Florida Gators, and Arkansas. Now, I want to flip this script here. We're not going to flip the script. Let's start at the top. Straub, I do want you to talk to me about the number one team in the country, a team that would have probably won the college football playoff if it was 12 teams or anything more than 4 teams last year because they kind of got hosed. And a team that now has gone from one of the most dominant teams in the SEC to still one of the most dominant teams in the SEC in the nation, but a team that you do not want to see any of their players driving near you, the Georgia Bulldogs.
Just had to get that in there, didn't you?
Oh, 100%.
So Georgia, I don't know why when you talk to people and you go, oh yeah, Georgia, they're like, oh, they had a good couple years, but this will go down and they'll go back to normal. I think this is the new normal for Georgia. I think this is Georgia's era. We had the Saban era in the Alabama, and we had the Clemson. This is Georgia. You have a stud quarterback in Carson Beck returning. You have an O-line that Kirby Smart says it's his best since he's been at Georgia. And listen, it's Georgia. The defense is spectacular. It's going to be suffocating. Number 1 in recruiting, number 14 in transfer, which absolutely ridiculous.
Just because they got so many guys who leave because they're so good.
Exactly. So not an issue there. You do have 3 tough road games. You have Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss, which are going to be tough. And you have Clemson to kick off the season, which is going to be an absolutely fantastic game. But this is Georgia. Georgia is going to maybe sometimes not score as much as they think they should, but they are going to hold teams to under 21 points most games. So you know what? I got them winning. It's a spoiler, but I got them winning the SEC. There's not enough. There's too much of a gap again between the rest of the best of the best.
I 100% agree with you. We are judging Georgia on Georgia standards. We're not even judging them with the rest of college football anymore. That we're transfer portal ranking is because no matter what, they're going to lose a crap ton of guys at a school like that. But I mean, everybody wants to go to Georgia. There's a reason they're 1 in recruits and they're 1 overall. So that's that. I fully expect them to be there in the college football playoffs. I don't even care to look at what the schedule is. It just doesn't matter. Fair to point this out about the SEC. 5 teams have over a 52% chance. I'm sorry, 5 teams with over a 52% chance of winning 10 games. those top 5. Then LSU, a 43% chance. So basically 6 teams have a realistic chance in this conference to win 10 games. Any of them win 10 games, they are in. Now at the I'm going to kind of touch on all of mine together. So I'm going to actually put 2 together. So I have Texas with Steve Sarkisian in his 3rd year. I was on the Texas's back train last year, and I was 100% correct. I preseason predicted them to go to the college football playoffs and to get in, and they absolutely did that. Now they are 3rd, as I pull my own graphic down. They are 3rd in the SEC, as you see. They are 5th in the nation overall, 6th in that portal and those recruits. They rank 25th in their production returning. Everything is on set for them, except for the schedule. Yeah. Because if you want to talk about a brutal schedule, this is one of the most. They absolutely have a talented quarterback room. Quinn Ewers is a star. I got it right this time. Quinn Ewers, star and a Heisman candidate. Arch Manning isn't just the recruiting hype. He balled out in the spring game. Now their running back room has been decimated by 2 ACL injuries. So we will see who steps up there. But in the wide receiver room, Xavier Worthy, Donnie Mitchell, Jordan Whittington, they're all gone. But the defense, they've replaced a lot. The portal guys have come in, but we got to talk about the schedule. This is what we got to talk about. Okay, it's brutal with a capital B. Michigan week 2 at Michigan. They do get some break. UTSA, UL Monroe, but bro, Mississippi State. Then it's Oklahoma, Georgia, Vandy, Florida, who also has a death schedule, Arkansas, Kentucky, Texas A&M.
Jesus, man.
They could be your 3-loss team that gets in, though, depending on who they upset. But we will see. I think Texas has no choice but to take a step back.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I just think the schedule is too brutal. Now, I'm going to ask you a question because then I'm going to put you on the spot about one. You also have the Missouri Tigers. Briefly touched on the Missouri Tigers because then I want to talk about the lies that have been the downfall of Alabama.
Yeah, Missouri, listen, I think the biggest question here is, can they repeat their unprecedented success? They came out of nowhere and had just a lot of success and a lot of talent there. And honestly, I think the answer to that is yes. Head coach Elia Drinkwitz, quarterback Brady Cook, and wide receiver Luther Burden III have returned. And they have one of the easiest schedules this season in the SEC. No games against Georgia, Texas, LSU, Tennessee, or Ole Miss, and a lot of their tough games are at home. So Missouri, a team that we usually see dwindling with Vanderbilt at the bottom of the SEC, could again be a top 5 team in the SEC this year and has all the pieces to do it. And so we're going to see what happens. But I like this Missouri team again.
I agree. And I do too. I like them on some bets coming up soon. We'll talk about next week and as the season goes on. All right. So before I let you answer the question that I did ask you, I'll finish up. Ole Miss, the man people love to hate, Lane Kiffin. You see who's number 1 in transfer portal rankings? Yeah, Ole Miss, baby. And they return a lot. They return a Heisman Trophy candidate in Jackson Dart. An absolute playmaker star, wide receiver Trey Harris, dipped heavy into the running back portal. South Carolina, Juice Wells, Miami of Ohio's 1,000-yard rusher, Straub of the week 1 week, Rashard Amos. So Ole Miss is absolutely there. I mean, not too bad of a schedule either. I even had this written down. Them and Missouri have 2 of the easier schedules in the SEC. They need it because to win in the SEC, you got to go through Bama and Georgia. Lane Kiffin is 0-4. 4 easy games to start. They do have a run of Kentucky, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi State. I mean, all these schedules are still tough. But if the only loss in there is to Georgia, or even if it's just to Georgia and LSU, but you smoke Oklahoma, there's possibilities for Ole Miss to have a loss or 2 and still make it in this thing. Drew, Talk to me about the downfall of Alabama.
So I know everyone there. It's a split opinion. Some people are saying because Saban's gone, and literally people are saying just because Saban's gone, it's going to be over. And some people are saying that it's going to be Bama. They're going to be fine. I lean towards the former, but not just because Saban is gone. They had 15 incoming transfers. They had 40 outgoing transfers. I honestly, they did get some guys, but I don't know how they're third in transfer rankings when it is a minus 25 in terms of players leaving.
Bias ranking.
Now they have a new head coach, the Washington head coach, ex-Washington head coach, very, very good, very talented, but God, the schedule was brutal.
Yeah.
Road games at Wisconsin, Tennessee, LSU, and Oklahoma, and then a home game against Georgia. That is absolutely brutal. And I think the worst part is you have an offensive line and a defensive front seven that are going to be your best units. And obviously you have Jalen Milroe. But let me tell you something here. They have 8 running backs on the roster, right? All of their total college career combined rushing yards, 521. That is less than 100 yards per person.
Mm-hmm.
Their top wide receiver, Jeremy Bernard, had 371 receiving yards last season. You are replacing so much production that you need to just bank that Milroe is the guy and is going to have a Heisman caliber season and get these guys going, because my Lord, the odds are stacked against Bama for the first time in forever, and it's going to be brutal if they can't get things going. And Milroe doesn't look like second half Jalen Milroe. He looks like first half Jalen Milroe. He was struggling in the first part of the year. So we're going to see.
No, I agree. And then here, the last team we'll touch upon in this best of the best before we kind of go real rapid fire through the rest of the SEC. The LSU Tigers, the team that behind the scenes, my brother flat out told me that I had to take, which is fine. One, because he knows he enjoys me getting mad about Brian Kelly, and two, then he gets to laugh while the rest of you see me get mad about Brian Kelly. Having to do USC and LSU in the same preview is just, you're a dick.
You chose Big Ten and SEC. I don't know what you're
I know. We always know Brian Kelly has been a great recruiter. I mean, this is no surprise here. Okay, he had top 10 recruiting or top 15 and top 10 recruiting classes at Notre Dame. A couple top 5 classes. It's no surprise that LSU's 6th in the SEC. It's that they're 9th overall. It's no surprise that he has 20 wins in 2 years, a Heisman winner. But as my brother knows a little and more from reading later on, because you were young and you weren't when he was at Cincinnati and you were a Buckeyes fan then. And that something that I know very, very well from being in tune at his tenure at Notre Dame. He's our all-time wins leader. So trust me, I know all about Brian Kelly. He is a culture in himself, and he can absolutely wear on you. And if you don't ride with it, it can be toxic as hell. So 39th in the portal at a place like LSU seems very low, but not surprising if you know Brian Kelly, like at all. They are 60th in returning production. You know, that's something I like. Unlike some of these teams, though, it's the opposite end. Only 55% on offense, 71% on defense. So kind of more in line with some of the Big Ten teams. It's time for Harold recruit Garrett Nussmeier to return on the worst unveiling video of all time. Him and Brian Kelly spinning around on one of those platforms, and Brian Kelly dancing is like one of the most amazingly cringy things I've ever seen in my freaking life. But I mean, this is LSU. They're stacked all over the place. Now, the defense is expected to be good, but it better be, because while they were good on some turnovers and, you know, some other stuff, you know, Jaden Daniels won a Heisman because he was having to win every game 48-49, you know, 48-47. So, schedule wise, yeah, it's the SEC. It's never easy. They have a Big Ten Cali series. in that they play USC to open the season. They also have UCLA sandwiched in between South Carolina and South Alabama. And then they have Ole Miss and end the season with Oklahoma. So things to dodge there for LSU, but
Can I ask something?
We'll see what Brian Kelly chokes away. Yeah, go ahead.
When's that South Alabama game? What week is that?
You're gonna put me on the spot here.
If it's not within the first 3 weeks, I complained about this last year. SEC teams scheduling week 9, week 8, week 10, group of 5 games boils my blood. Boils my blood so hard. I'm sorry. I can't do that. That is going to be a week that, again, I'm going to rant like I did last season.
All right, well, I have it here. So I have the schedule pulled up. So, like I said, they start with number 23 as of currently right now, USC. Then they play the Nichols Colonials. I don't even know where that place is. No, yeah, you're not going to be happy about this. Then they go South Carolina, UCLA, and then, yeah, there's that Southern Alabama game. Week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then they go Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Alabama, Florida, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. So yeah, a nice cake right in the middle of that SEC schedule.
Like, come on, man. I hope they lose. I so hope they lose.
You're hilarious. All right, let's get rolling rapid fire because we got to still talk about some Premier League here at the end. This middle tier here, a whole bunch of teams that are always with a lot of hope, but not a lot of success. So I had Texas A&M, and I also have Oklahoma. So obviously you have Tennessee and you have Kentucky. I'm just going to put it to you flatly. Tennessee or Kentucky? Do either of these teams have a chance to make the SEC championship game?
I like Tennessee. I don't Kentucky. I don't think they have it in them. Their best years have been previous years. I think they're finally on the decline. I think they're honestly going to drop down to the 3rd tier after the season. But Tennessee, honestly, Nico Lamalieva, I think is how you say it, at quarterback. He's a year in the system. How big of a step is honestly going to be determined how far they go. They have a deep defensive line that's going to get to the quarterback and carry the load defensively because they have a young secondary. It's going to really going to try to gain its footing. But honestly, if you talk to any Tennessee fan, they're putting themselves up top with expectations on the top tier. And honestly, if Nico can have a standout year, I think they can do it. The schedule is tough. The schedule is going to be rough. It's obviously the SEC, but you have the talent. And 2 years ago, Tennessee was knocking on the door. They had a disappointing season last season, but they have the talent to do it.
I actually like that. I kind of like this Tennessee team too. I kind of agree with you about Kentucky. I mean, how could I disagree with you about the schedule? So I have Texas A&M and I have Oklahoma. To talk about Oklahoma and former Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables, I'm kind of disappointed on the defensive end here. As you see, Oklahoma 7th in the SEC in recruiting. That is not bad at all. 12th in the nation. They're always a great recruiting school. Dylan Gabriel is gone, but they've got a highly touted recruit, Jackson Arnold. He was one of Venables' big signings there. I mean, the problem there, this Oklahoma quarterback legacy as of recent, from Dylan Gabriel to Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, like the quarterback position has been something though. So we'll see what they can do. But I want to see this defense get better because as much as when he was at Clemson, there was Deshaun Watson, it was, Trevor Lawrence, it was, the wide receivers, it was Sammy Watkins, it was Deshaun Hopkins, it was all these guys. Those defenses were great. I want to see this Oklahoma defense get back to being, I want to see this Oklahoma defense get better and get to being good. Maybe not great, but good. And then Oklahoma will have an actual chance in the SEC. But man, just like Texas, it's this coming into the SEC early, a year early, like they wanted to. And once again, it's a brutal schedule. They got Temple, Houston, and Tulane at home. Okay. And then this is the run. Tennessee, at Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, the Maine Black Bears, so take a breath, Missouri, Alabama, LSU to end the season.
That's insane.
None of these teams will be scheduling these out of conference games next year because you don't have to. When more than half of the SEC is ranked, you don't have to schedule outside of this conference because you're going to play better teams. So that is the big one there. As we get to this last tier, I mean, what do you want to point out about this last tier real quick before we wrap this up?
If you want to watch,
you skipped. Hold on a second. Take a breath there.
Games. Watch Florida football this year. Strong receiving core, beast running back in Montreal Johnson. Am I good?
Yeah, you're good.
But yeah, strong receiving core, beast running back in Montreal Johnson Jr., top 5 quarterback prospect in Graham Mertz. Like, fantastic offense. Their pass defense was weak last year. They lost their best edge rusher and 2 of its top 3 cornerbacks in the portal. It is going to be a Florida team that is going to give up 30, and we'll see if they score 28 or they score 32. It's going to be a high-scoring affair every Florida game. So that's something to look out for. As for Arkansas and Mississippi State, they're just trying to retool and figure out what to do on the offensive side of the ball for Arkansas, on the defensive side of the ball for Mississippi State.
Nice. Oh, my bad. Nice. I like it. Super rapid fire for me. I do want to point out, I know Auburn is in that bottom tier, Hugh Freeze and Auburn. They have a lethal elite running back room. So if they can have any kind of passing attack, they were literally last in yards per game in the SEC. If they can have any resemblance of a passing game, Auburn can make some noise. 100%. I fully believe. Greg McElroy had them 25th in the country, even though they weren't ranked in the preseason poll, but he had them ranked. I do like that. And the schedule is somewhat middle of the pack for them too. So that's Auburn. South Carolina, I mean, what are they going to do? South Carolina going to upset 2 or 3 teams this year, and then they're going to lose the 2 or 3 teams that they're not supposed to. I mean, it's literally what they do. They do return 5 of their top 6 in the secondary. So that is definitely going to help them on the defensive end. But the schedule, I mean, Kentucky, and then these are in a row: LSU, Akron, Bama, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, A&M, Vandy, Missouri, and then Clemson to end the season. Like, it's bad. There's a Wofford in between that Missouri and Clemson game.
Oh
too.
my
yeah,
God.
baby.
Akron and Wofford not in the. Listen, okay, Wofford awful. Akron, listen, if you're going to play the MAC, play a good MAC school. How about that? Like, pick a Miami of Ohio or an Ohio or a Toledo. Why are we picking the bottom Akron? Like, what are we doing here?
I do not know. I do not know. You threw me all the way there. Oh, and lastly, my last team down there at the bottom, because I got to talk about this. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, baby. Clark Lee has probably one of the worst jobs in college football. He has an extremely hard and respected division and a school that nobody respects football-wise and NIL-wise, which creates a lose-lose situation. And his 9-27 record in 3 years proves that. But there is hope for Vandy football. Okay, first of all, they've lost 23 players to power conference schools in the past 3 years. But that's because they are top 40 in recruits, top 40 in the transfer portal, 42nd overall. I don't know how they wouldn't just be 40th, but whatever. I told you I'm not doing this. But they got some big things going on in this offense. Okay, and I've got to talk about this. This is one of my favorite teams that I ended up looking at when I started diving originally. They brought in New Mexico State offensive coordinator Tim Beck, and with him came former Straub Bro of the Week and absolute beast Diego Pavia, and 5 other Aggie transfers came along with them. Pavia is easily one of the most talented quarterbacks to come through Vandy since probably about 2018. Kyle Shermer, he broke all of their passing records there. I know it's a name not a lot of guys are familiar with. However, he's also one of the most talented guys since another guy was on that campus. That guy's name was Jay Cutler. That's how long it's been since Vandy's had a guy like this. How good? 29-73 in yards last year, 26-9 touchdown to interception ratio, led New Mexico State to a win over Auburn, where he became Strawbro of the Week, led them to a Conference USA championship game where they played against Liberty. They did lose, but they played well against Liberty. Defensively, 6 transfers in to help. I mean, there is some hope here. till you get to the schedule. They opened with Virginia Tech, who we didn't talk about this much during the ACC thing because I had only had it as a side thing. Virginia Tech is the number one team in the country in production return. I think it was fair to give them some love. And since I already had that up, I can actually tell you specifically. They returned 86% of their production from last year, 77% on defense, good for 12th in the country, 95% of their offense, good for number one in the country. So that's big. That's a big game week one. There are some cakes in the middle. And then, Missouri and Bama back to back, Texas and Auburn. They have Auburn on that schedule. They're going to be looking for a revenge game against Diego Pavaya after they got upset last year. South Carolina, LSU, and of course, rival Tennessee to end the season. Still, I can see at least 5 wins for this team, maybe 6 in a bowl game, and that's a great season right now for Vanderbilt.
And if not, it's 6 months until baseball season.
And they're right back in it, and they know how to handle that. That went a little long, but that was fun. I did have some fun. I think we cleaned it up better on the second half here in the SEC, but that's okay. We talked about everybody we needed to talk about. Now, something near and dear to me and Straub's heart, not more than, but just as much as the college football season, and that is our footy, that is our soccer. And tomorrow, literally tomorrow at 3:00, the Premier League begins, baby. The Premier League is back. It's time to get right with it. I got my Glory United right here. I got my old scarf. I'm ready to go. Now, like I said, the Premier League starts tomorrow with Manchester United and Fulham. But rolling, one of the things me and Straub did is we took a look at a couple of teams, and then we actually did a predictor. So I want to start with the teams first, and then we'll go to the predictor. I think that'll be an easier way to go. Straub, I'll start because I had the A's. I had the first A. And here, I'm finding my slide, so you don't need to worry about it. No, I'm not. You help me. I lost them. There they go.
Right there. Yeah.
Aston Villa. That's who I have to start with. A couple of big things in the transfer window. One of the biggest is they lost Douglas Luiz, and I think one of the weirdest transfer sagas of all time that's not talked about very well. And that is, not only did he force himself out of Aston Villa to go to Juventus, his girlfriend, who is a very talented soccer player at Aston Villa as well, then asked for a transfer, and they both went to Juventus. Weird, just, and not because I'm judging someone's relationship, but they broke up one time because she did a photo shoot. So there's a little bit of behavior that's sometimes not the most becoming of a man. So I'm hoping that everything was willingness in this transfer. But some of these transfers in are huge. Amado Anana from Everton is massive. They got a boy from Chelsea who's we'll see.
I mean, he played really well for Dortmund last season, so I think he'll be a good sturdy replacement.
He did what a lot of teams did too, and that is raid through a lot of the teams that got relegated. That's where you see Cameron Archer come in from Sheffield City. Jaden Falong is from Hull City, I think is a good one. I'll get there. Calm down. There was a swap in there with Juventus. That's where they got him. Lewis Dobbin coming in from Everton. Like I said, we'll talk about Everton coming up. Enzo Berneccia from Juventus. And then, speaking of rating teams that were relegated, and I mostly did this for Drew, Big Boss Ross comes in from Luton Town, who had a good season, honestly, for Luton Town last year. I'm glad to see him in the Premier League. I'm glad to see him on a team that's going to play European football. Aston Villa qualified for the Champions League. So good to see him there. I know you're.
I am, because, listen, Ross Barkley, when he's on a team that goes like insanely fast, he can't play. Like, he is overwhelmed with it. But you get a team that is with his ability, he is the best player on the field. And it's so amazing to watch. Like, and I'm not kidding you. He is when Chelsea was with Frank Lampard and there was so many new guys in the midfield and young players, I've never seen Ross Barkley play better. But the second we got players that were a little bit better than him off the map completely. And so I wish him the best of luck, and I hope he does well at Aston Villa because I will never not root for Big Boss Ross Barkley.
I like that better. I'm dressing up lucky. All right, you're up. I'm just so done with you after that. Your first team.
My first team. So we will sense a theme here. These are going to be teams that have U.S. players on them.
All right.
So my first is
you were going to force
Bournemouth.
Americans. You were going to force Americans abroad in here some way.
1,000%. So, and we will. For those that are wondering, we will talk about the news next week. We're waiting for it to be officially official. So just So yeah, Bournemouth. Tyler Adams coming back, still hurt. So we will see if he starts on the opening day roster. But some of these guys coming in are good, but there is one massive out transfer, and that is Dominic Solanke, that is their leading scorer, has gone to Tottenham in a massive deal. And honestly, they didn't really replace him. Luis Sinacera from Leeds is good. NSO from Gaddafi is good. Dean Hujana from Juventus and Julian Araujo from Barcelona are young. But there is really no attacking replacement here. And I think Bournemouth is really, really going to struggle here. 12th place last year, 48 points, 16 losses. And I think this is going to get worse in terms of points into this year, just because I don't know where they're going to get the goal production from. And so we're going to see. But yeah, I do not have faith in this Bournemouth team to really – they may stop a lot of goals, but you can't win if you can't score. So we're going to see.
No. And that happens with a lot of those teams towards the bottoms. Yeah, they might not give up a lot of goals, but then they can't score them. So the one you give up brace you. And this is the balance of some of these transfer, I almost called them transfer portal, too much college football. These transfer windows. If that out transfer is a different name, I could argue Bournemouth had an A+ transfer window for that club. Because the Araujo signing from Barcelona, I absolutely love. I love the signing in from Leeds. And Solanke has been a talented striker, so that's a big loss for them. And I agree with you. We'll touch on that when we debut our what we feel like the table rankings might be. So next for me, in here I'll slide over. I got control. I'm good. My other club, and I'm going to give a shout out to my coworker, Aiden. He's a big West Ham guy. He wears his West Ham hat. He's got a little West Ham sticker on his locker or his toolbox and everything. They had a interesting transfer window. They were a Europe team 2 years ago. They finished in 9th place. Obviously, they actually won. I'm sorry, I apologize. Not just a Europe team. They won the Europa. Was it conference? Yeah, Europa Conference League. I almost said Europa. That wasn't that. Europa Conference League, and they made some moves. Obviously, Flynn Downs to Southampton, Ben Rama to Lyon is a decent one, decent loss there. But I like some of these additions. Somerville coming in from Leeds, I think, is a huge one. I think he's quality. I think he has quality to play Premier League football. I think Luis Guilherme coming in from Palermo is a big one. You do sometimes have to worry about when you buy players from Borussia Dortmund that are not named Erling Haaland and Jude Bellingham, but we'll see what he does. And then the biggest one, and it's a guy I know a lot about. It was actually funny. I was on I'm at work, and he come up to me with his phone and was like, "Hey, I need to know all about him." And that's Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who we sold. And here's the best thing I can tell you about this transfer. I wasn't happy about it. Yeah. I wanted Aaron. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka, especially with a team like mine, and we'll get to them, who has a lot of injuries already. I think he's a very, very serviceable Premier League player. 2 years ago, he led the Premier League in tackles. He is a great defender, on-ball defender, gets in the way of stuff. Not great going forward. Fair criticism about him going forward. Doesn't have a great cross, doesn't always pick out the right pass, but gets going. I think he's more than quality to play in the Premier League, and I would have loved to keep him on my bench. So that's what I can tell you about that one. I think West Ham are going to have a similar season to last year, but I don't think the disappointment will be there. But I think they're going to play. I think they're going to surprise some people in some of the big games, and I mean they kind of always do that.
Yeah, I would say West Ham is definitely a team, especially last year, that was just super up and down. They'd have one or two really good games and then 2 ones where you're like, what happened to all that momentum? I think a lot of those signings really are towards stabilizing that. And so maybe those 2 or 3 losses go to like 1 loss. And so maybe those 2 or 3, those 2 wins maybe turn to 3 or 4. And so I like West Ham. I think that what they're doing is solid. It's a good approach. Maybe not shocker moves that jump them at the table, but get them up a couple spots, maybe back into Europe.
Right.
All right, my turn. My one is Crystal Palace, home of Chris Richards. 10th place last year, 49 points, just above Bournemouth. Not bad. And it was kind of, I'm kind of disappointed with them because it's very similar to how I'm with Bournemouth. You have a guy out like Mikel Elise, who you sell top dollar to Bayern Munich to, and your job now is to fill that team with the needs. You get Amazmali Sarr from Marseille, and you get Chadi Riyad from Real Betis. 2 very good signings. But you needed so much more. You needed some more midfield. You needed some more bolster and attack. Your defense, I think that Chadi Riyad really completes the defense. I think you're okay there. But you could have done so much more with that money you got from Elise. And I think they're going to really, really struggle without, again, a lot of production in that top team because you have 1 or 2 guys that can get you the goals, but you have those guys really fading out, and that's why that Crystal Palace team was only 10th last season. So we're gonna see.
Yeah,
I hope for Chris Richards he gets a lot of minutes here, but we'll see.
The talent for Crystal Palace is top end of the Premier League. The problem is putting it together. So the reason I would in the middle on Crystal Palace. So if you're here going into this transfer window, Crystal Palace hoped that transfer out list wasn't 4 or 5 more guys deep.
That's true.
You checked that box and that didn't happen. So once you sold Elise for top dollar, yeah, I agree with you. I like the 2 signings. There should have been at least 2 more. And that was a big part of your point. And my last side team, this one's for you, Pops. Hopefully you're still hanging in there with us. I know we're running real long today. That would be Newcastle. Finished 7th, a bit of a disappointing season. They were knocked out of Europe in the Champions League in the group stage. They were supposed to compete for the Champions League. They really never were in touching distance for most of the year. Obviously, the transfers out, Elliot Anderson, a kid who I actually really like, over to Nottingham Forest because Nottingham Forest just has to continue to buy multiple players throughout every window. Obviously, they lost Nkubu to Brighton. But some of these guys I actually have a couple more than you wrote down, but that's okay. I like Lewis Hall from Chelsea. I think that's an okay signing. Oh, there he is. I knew. See, I knew he'd be there. We're talking about your Newcastle Pops. I wrote it down too, but I'm gonna just give this a shot. Odysseus Valcotomios. Sorry, I knew how to do it, but I just had to try to take the sec there. William Masula from Sheffield. I think John Rudy from Birmingham City, I think was a good one too. They didn't lose Bruno Guimaraes. That's key right now. They still have not lost him. So as long as they have hung on to him, Newcastle's going to be a contender for Europe this year, especially with the guys out. I don't think we're really playing that big or as big of a role. And I think they're going to be able to be replaced. So I expect decent things from Newcastle. Bring back the Newcastle beer throwback. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Newcastle, it struggled mightily with having to deal with so many competitions last season. They're not going to have to do that now. But you have a strong squad. You have a good manager. And like I said, you didn't lose too many. You didn't really bring in too many. It's kind of just a run it back season. And so I think they're going to do well. I think that it's going to be another kind of disappointing year for them. And then I think we're going to see a massive splash finally. But we'll see. They have a chance to do really well with the talent that they have, as long as it's not gassed. But they also have a chance to just kind of underperform again. So it's kind of like we're going to wait and see for the first couple weeks to see what they're really all about.
All right, your last team before we get homers.
Yeah, so my first one did have 2 Americans in it, but now has one, as you can see, as Tim Ream has moved to Charlotte FC. Honestly, I think that's a good move for him. I think he realized
within a week or 2 we are going to bring our MLS talk back.
Oh, we will. I think that he realized that he's getting over the hill, and he's maybe not Premier League quality. I would have liked to see him maybe in another league in Europe, but I think going back to MLS is good for him. I think it'll be fun to watch him back again. 13th place, I think a very disappointing year from the year before from Fulham. Fulham was a top 10 team last year and 2 years ago, and then last year they just couldn't get it going offensively after losing Mitrovic to the Saudi League. And this year, they kind of just went like for like. They got Emilio Smith-Rowe from Arsenal, but then lost João Palhinha. But so they gained some attack and lose some defense. They get in Jorge Cuenca from Villarreal, but then they lose Tim Ream. And then I had to put Willian in there. He's currently not on a team anymore, but he was important for them offensively. And so I think for Fulham, I think you have a team that replaced what they needed to for what they lost, but didn't add anything. And I think that just might be honestly due to some just financial restrictions within the club. And I think that it's a team that is banking that they have some growth from some of their players that they got and some of the players that they're homegrowing. But it's another team that I think is flirts within between 7 and 13 every year, and the transfer in and out kind of shows that.
I believe the philosophy, and I can understand it, would be we disappointed last year. Hold on, go back to them for a second. We disappointed last year. So we know what this team has, so let's run it back. Now, I will say this. The problem is the transfers. So Ream going, okay. Willian, my advice would be let him just stay on an extended holiday and sign him on a free transfer in about 2 to 3 weeks or so, or 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whenever he's ready to come back. Losing Palhinha is huge, is massive, to the point where I love Emil Smith-Rowe transfer so much that if they would have been able to keep João Palhinha, I think this team could have been potentially fighting for Europe.
That's fair.
Like that in the center of your midfield, week in, week out for a Premier League squad, that is how you start to build a team that starts to sit in the top half of the table. But I think losing Palhinha is going to be a big, big loss there. So yeah, I kind of expect them to kind of sit somewhere in the middle there. I usually get to go last, so I usually get to pull rank here, but I won't. I will go next. It's time to get homered. It's time to talk about my Manchester United. Other than being decimated by injuries, we'll get to that in a second. This has been now maybe not as exciting, but this has been one of the better transfer windows we've had in years. We finally stopped overpaying for players. That's kind of one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Now I do understand we are assembling my coach's 2013 Ajax squad, but or not, their youth Ajax squad, but the transfers out. I already mentioned Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I wasn't really too big on that one. Willie Kambala, I really thought they might have kept him, but then we went so heavy on the defense. I understand why. I'm very happy Donny van der Beek is going to go play somewhere. Alvaro Carreras, I was a little high on him, but I understood too. We're trying to bring in guys who are more ready. The Mason Greenwood transfer, I mean, at this point, I just need to let it go and just be done with it because I don't understand it. Not the transfer, just the whole situation is just so murky and muddy and ugly. I guess it's just time to cut ties and let it go. On the coming inside, though, and well, that was pause. On the transfers coming in, I love Lenny Yoro from Lille. I know he's hurt now. He's going to be out for a couple of months, but I do love bringing in a young, talented defender like that. Jared Braithwaite still might be coming in from Everton. That might happen. Cross fingers. Joshua Zerski from Bologna. I love that too. Another young striker. I'm tired of us buying old strikers. Bringing in some young striker talent. Obviously, Rasmus Højlund is injured right now, so we need some backup there. But just in general, I like going youth there with what we have up top on the side. And then I got to talk about it. The Bayern Munich double. Mazzori, the right back coming in. I love that. And then here, I'm just going to talk about Matthijs de Ligt. I love this. I get it. There's, everybody tried to ride us. oh, blah, blah, blah. We shouldn't be buying Bayern Munich's rejects. The kid is good. The kid wins everywhere he goes. So all I can hope is that he's going to continue to bring that here, and we're going to win here with it. Eighth place is disappointing. We'll talk about where I think they're going to finish here coming up. This team needs to just stay healthy. If this team stays healthy, we're going to be somebody that you have to talk about week in, week out, but that's a big if. Especially because I think the guys we brought in on defense are quality, and our attack has always been there last year. We got 5 goals of the month. We had great attacking games. Defensively, we gave up too much, and I think the help that we brought in will be a big help there.
Yeah, listen, I think here I'm gonna put that back up real quick.
Okay.
I think you've done exactly what I've been wanting to do for the past 3 years. In terms of the transfers, transfers out, you trim the fat. Mason Greenwood wasn't going to come back. Willie Kumbwala wasn't going to challenge. Alvaro Carreras wasn't going to challenge. Johnny Van de Beek hasn't been able to challenge. Maybe Wan-Bissaka stays, but that's just kind of part of the deal when you're doing stuff like this, especially in a club like United. But with the transfers out, you transferred guys out that weren't going to be helpful for you, and that's perfect. And in terms of transfers in,
there's names because you just mentioned that, so I have to mention the ones that you didn't add. Brandon Williams.
I didn't have the room.
That's Brandon Williams, another guy who I enjoyed but wasn't going to challenge. Shola Solskjaer, a good young player but wasn't going to challenge. We finally moved on from Anthony Martial, and we also moved on from Rafael Varane as well. Trimming the fat, guys who are or not playing.
And I think this is one of the things where we'll get to my thing, and that's one of the big things. But then in terms of transfers in, you bolstered up something that you needed last year, and that was defense. You got hurt because of injury, and you were so thin on defense, you had to put a center defensive mid who's 1,000 years old and can't run at center back. So you got 2 great center backs, and you got a right back to boot. I think it's a great transfer window for you, and I think that's going to reflect in the beginning of the year and also the end of the year when you need those guys, that second and third string when a guy or two gets hurt.
Chelsea time.
Yes, it is. Okay. As you can see, in the transfers in, Pedro Neto, I think he's going to be a great addition. Kieran Dewsbury Hall, I think, is a good, solid rotation piece in the midfield. We keep buying goalkeepers like they're gone sale, and I don't understand how we're going to do anything because we still haven't sold any. And then, as you can see, 5 other U21 players that I really didn't want to mention just because they're not going to challenge for the starting squad anytime soon. In terms of transferred out, 2 left backs, Ian Maatson and Lewis Hall, they needed to go. They weren't going to need playing time. And Omari Hutchinson, just way down the pecking order in terms of wingers, and so he went off to Ipswich. Good luck to him. But this is another team. Listen, 6th place last year was not bad for us. We were 11th the year before. We moved up 5 places. We were looking good. And then Mauricio Pochettino, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, didn't want to be here anymore. It didn't say he was sacked. It was a mutual separation, and I could tell that he didn't think that the board and the owner's vision was something he agreed with, and he left. And I completely understand that. And now we're back to square one with a new manager, new players coming in to fit the manager's system, and people and all those and so many players that we haven't sold yet still looking. Look, I can name off the top of my head: Roberto Sanchez, Kepa Arrizabalaga, Romelu Lukaku. I'm pretty sure we have Jenny Drinkwater still on our roster, which is the worst thing in the world. There's so many players that we need to get rid of that we just for some reason aren't selling because we're not meeting a price point. Listen, I don't care. You're not going to recoup any of that money for them sitting on the bench and playing with the youth squad. Get rid of them. Just clean house. Do what United did. Trim all the fat that you can, and just then start with the guys you have. It's beyond frustrating, and it's going to be another year of, we're going to start sucking. We start off slow because it's a new manager and a new system, and I have to deal with more and more and more of the same. And it's beyond frustrating, and I'm excited, but I'm also not.
Speaking of how you think they will finish, me and Straub today put in our predictions for how we think the Premier League will end. or I should say wind up. That's how we'll end the show here as we start to wrap things up. We're super long today, we know. My predictions on the left-hand side, his predictions on the right. My top four: Arsenal, Manchester City, Manchester United, and Liverpool. Yes, I think Arsenal finally break the Manchester City run, or at least I'm just praying and hoping that they do. I do believe my United are healthy enough come the end of the year to really put together some victories and to put together a run there that will put together. Pops, we're going to talk about that next week when it becomes official. We absolutely believe that hire is going to happen. On the relegation zone, we agree on one. I'm sorry. Drew has Manchester City 1, Arsenal 2, Tottenham 3, Aston Villa 4. I'll let you explain that. We both have Nottingham Forest going down. I have Wolves and Everton. You have Southampton and Ipswich, both new clubs. I have Ipswich going 11th. Yeah, I believe
saw
I believe in McKenna. I think he's gonna do well. I also just think Fulham will be down. I don't even think Crystal Palace might finish in 10th. Brentford, Leicester. I think just Bournemouth. I think they're all gonna have bad clubs. I think Everton is just doing everything wrong. Premier League club that you could possibly do right now. So I think that run of safety is over. I think they're going down for sure this year. So that's how I feel. Glory, glory, Man United, get us back in the Champions League.
Yeah, listen,
And I want
was
to point out I have
back
you finishing
and
higher
forth
than you
between
did.
Aston Villa and United.
Oh, did I?
You do have me finishing higher. Which that's just my pessimism there. I switched between Aston Villa and you, back and forth between 4 and 5. I know Aston Villa are going to struggle with so many competitions, but I think Unai Emery and the job he's done is fantastic, and I think that's just going to carry him to. I think they're just going to barely nudge you in that. I think they're going to just finish above you at the final day, kind of thing.
Why I kept them in Europe.
Yeah, City and Arsenal, we can go back and forth on that. We'll do that throughout the season. Tottenham, I think that addition of Dominic Solanke is going to really push them up levels. I think that they have a great squad this year, and so I don't like it. I don't like Arsenal and Tottenham, my two rivals, being 2 and 3, but I think they're going to be good this year. In terms of my relegation, 2 out of the 3 teams, I think, every year, especially recently, have gone down after recently being promoted. Listen, we all thought Vincent Company was going to be the savior and stay up, and we got them so high last season, and that's why I can't put Leicester higher than 17th. But I also think Nottingham Forest are doing a Chelsea, but on a worse, where they're just buying everyone, and they're not going to be doing any favors for themselves. I think Nottingham goes down. I think Southampton, Ipswich, good teams, but I think just get roughed up with just how good I think the top 11 or 12 of the Premier League is, and I think it's going to be rough for them. And I think I understand Everton. I just think that there's too many worse teams. I think it's basically the past 2 seasons where they're bad, but they're not bad enough as the other teams to go down. And then Wolves, I actually kind of like Wolves. So I think that they have enough talent around them to beat up on some teams like Bournemouth, Palace, everything down there. So
First of all, obviously, Vincent Company, shout out to you getting relegated into one of the best jobs in football. Like, I don't even understand how that freaking works.
ultimate failing upward.
100%. Same as last year. I have Chelsea ranked higher than you did in last year's rankings as well. You're always a big 6 club to me. I give you more love and respect on the rankings, and then so that way I can trash you when I need to. And then once again, and I like to point that out because it's a funny thing. I had Wolves relegated last year, and you said damn near the exact same thing, that you were higher on them, and I wasn't. So I guess I'm just continually hoping for Wolves to get relegated. I don't know what's going on there. I apologize. I'm not sure. But yeah. All right. So that'll do that there. Absolutely long show. Shout out to everybody who rocked with us throughout the whole entire thing. Pretty sure that was just mom and dad. But everyone else who tapped in along the way, we absolutely appreciate you. Drew, final shout outs.
Thank you to everyone who joined for this long show. I'm sure it's not going to be this long next week, even though we have a big thing for you guys. We have a lot of news and a lot of stuff to cover next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. So join us for that. And listen, it's stay safe this weekend, have some fun, and enjoy the summer while it lasts. We are getting towards the end. It's the middle of August. So go and do outside things before it gets brutally cold, or you want to stay inside for football. Go do things.
Listen, big Christmas keeps hitting like this. Snow's coming soon. I want to give a next week's show will for sure not be this long. We're gonna basically just do some college football predictions. And we're gonna obviously talk Guardians, and then obviously we would be hopefully talking United States men's national team coaching news. Just stay tuned. We're beyond even. I don't even. But thank you again for rocking with us here on the Straub Bro Sports Show. Whether you have been watching, listening, commenting, live, running it back, whatever you are doing, we appreciate you. I also, obviously, you're on the Facebook, many of you on the Facebook page, many of you more on the YouTube page today. Make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. We appreciate that. Like and subscribe on the YouTube page. Become one of our 5,000 plus subscribers on YouTube, where you can catch all the youth football games, all the semi-pro games, and 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth, the Jay Rich Show, the Ruler's Minute with Rico McGee, 2 new episodes this week to check out for you there, Outside Interference, and the Straub Bro Sports Show. Where can you find the Straub Bro Sports Show? Everywhere and anywhere. On Twitter at Straub Bro Sports, on TikTok at the SBSS, obviously on the 216 Sports Network, and on Spotify at Straub Bro Sports Show. And please check out the Instagram at Straub Bro Sports Show. Check out our interview with Hanford Dixon. Check out all of our old stuff. Links to the podcast. All that stuff is there as well if you want to just kind of narrow it down quickly. But make sure you check out the YouTube page. Everybody's stuff. It's good stuff all around. We work very hard on this network. A big shout out to Austin. Create Your Own Wave Apparel. Please love and give him some love. And a follow there on Instagram, Create Your Own Wave 2021, and CYOW apparel.myshopify.com. Get you some merch. Our last final shout out to oldtimecandy.com. We appreciate you for allowing us to rock with us. Rock with you guys while you were still rolling. Yes. What a show. Great job, kid. Only a couple connection issues, but you rolled strong with them. Like I said, we appreciate all of you, and we will be back. Like I said, this weekend, Cage, me and Straub. Sorry, I had to scroll back up. I almost forgot what I wanted to talk about. Cage Thunder MMA, August 17th, fight in the flats. Headlined by Bedford's own Jarrell Hodge. We are going to be there. We're going to be doing some fun stuff. Check out the Instagram page. That's where all that kind of stuff ends up starting and then linked over. I wanted to make sure I gave that shout out. Bro, great show today. Thank you, everybody, for rocking with us. We appreciate you, and we will see you next week. And please remember to love yours.